to nobody else. But then time caught up with my plans. And when the day broke, it exposed me for the fool that I really am. But you said, let me lead you, let me take you by the hand, yeah. So I can feed you from a good and precious land. And all my eyes have seen, you're all I need. You're all I need. Yeah. So now I'm learning to walk in your steps. And through the valley of confusion, I've been losing my apprehension with death. But you said, let me lead you, let me take you by the hand. So I can feed you from a good and precious land. Now I owe it all to you, giving my heart to you, freedom becoming true. Nobody else like you, do what you promised to. And I'm so grateful for your love. And all my eyes have seen the wonders of your mystery received. I've tasted what it means. Now nothing else is good enough for me. You're all I need. You're all I need. You're all I need. You're all I need. Oh, I need you. Yeah, I need you. Oh, I need you now. Now I owe it all to you, giving my heart to you, freedom becoming true. Nobody else like you, do what you promised to, and I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful for your love. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful. I need you in my life.
What's up? She went real quick. Oh. What's up, everybody? We are live back after a week off. We appreciate everybody who is tuning in, tapping in with us on this Tuesday evening like we do it. We are back with the Young Lion TV podcast. Shout out to the people who always tune in and you're in the chat. Make sure you drop a comment to get that algorithm revved up and get it started and get it going for us. Don't forget to hit that like button while you're here and share this video with your friends, because this algorithm does not like us for the topics that we talk about. You know, Facebook is still censoring stuff, and YouTube, but shout out to Rumble. Rumble is on a come up lately, so we're happy to be streaming over there as well. Make sure you guys are hitting that Rumble up button, and make sure you're sharing this with your friends like we said. But we're in here, we're live. I got the brother with me. A lot has been going on since we've been gone, and we're going to talk about it tonight. So stay tuned. Make sure you guys are ready. Join in on the conversation. You are watching Young Lion TV. Let's go.
Young lion, everywhere I look, they're dying. Everywhere I look, they're dying. Young lion, everywhere I look, they're dying. Everywhere I look, they're dying. Young lion, won't you get up and start fighting? Everywhere
So loud. Yeah, Young Lion TV. We are in the building. And we're ready to get this thing cracking. What I got with me this evening is I got my brother who doesn't have his microphone ready, but he's sitting there. He's ready to go. He doesn't have it in position. But if you know him, you love him. He is the coolest Asian. And
I just broke it.
Coolest Asian in the podcast gang. Didn't do that so smooth. Not so cool with the electronics. But we're still happy to have him with us
guys.
this evening. He is Mr. Simone Chang here with us.
Not so cool
today. And, just me and you in the studio tonight. Jake is supposed to be joining us later as soon as he can get on the stream. James is busy working, doing some paint job that he's got going on, some side hustle. And we have here holding us down with the production this evening. Our mother is still here in the building. We love her. Miss Angelique Lopez is here. Simone is still trying to get his mic situated. Let me get your mic up, Mom. So how you doing, Mom? How you feeling?
I'm okay.
You're okay?
Yes.
Why are you saying like, you're not blessed and highly favored?
I'm blessed and highly favored. I'm still missing my mama.
Missing your mama, of course. Yeah. Oh, your wife is on here watching you struggle, Bus, babe. This dude is over here breaking stuff live on the stream.
Struggle Bus over here. Hey, babe.
Yeah. And I saw a pop in there. Make sure you guys drop a comment and say hello so we know who's in the chat right now. But yeah, shout out to those on YouTube, on Rumble. Again, if you're catching us for the first time, I know we got a lot of new followers and stuff on Instagram and Facebook. If you're catching this live stream for the first time, this is just our podcast that we've been doing for years that started as us having conversations in the gym parking lot after we would work out. And we would just have conversations about life, about learning life lessons, things that we know we made mistakes as young men growing up in the world and figuring things out and also our path coming to Christ and growing in those ways and learning the spells that we were under as young men and the things that we kind of fell victim to, not knowing, not having the guidance of the older generation to protect us from a lot of those traps and spells. So we were always talking and having these conversations, talking about like, yo, we wish we had men to tell us the things that we could tell young men now. And then we just started saying, well, let's do it on a podcast. Let's start talking about this stuff and just put it up and let people hear the conversation so that maybe it'll help the next generation. Maybe, it can influence, even if it's just something that we could show our kids one day where they can have like a catalog of the ideas that we talked about. You know what I mean? Even to have that archived where our kids can look back on the type of men that we were, the type of men, what we thought, how we rationalized things, how we talked through ideas. And we don't always agree on stuff, so we always like debating, hashing things out.
And we're not perfect.
Yeah, we're definitely not perfect. Learning along the way. A lot of stuff has happened in our lives since we've started this podcast and constantly working those things out and just looking at life in that way. But all that to say, if you want to support that type of conversation, that type of dialogue, that it's just not men talking about mindless things like sports and cars and,
even though I do like talking about football.
Yeah, of course. There is a time and a place to have fun talking about those things as well.
But it's not all about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like the amount of life that is about that is so minuscule that I feel like we spend too much time focusing on those things that don't matter at all. Mm-hmm. Like I remember a point in my life, again, falling for those traps, a point in my life where I cared so much about what happened to the cameras, Mom. It went black.
I didn't touch anything.
Okay, we lost cameras.
I think it looked like it's still on.
Yeah, the stream's on. I'm
looking
at.
No, it's black too.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Let me check it out. See what happened. Oh, your camera's up.
That's your camera.
Is your camera up, Mom?
Yes, your camera.
Okay. Well, I'll check it out in a second. Yeah, just try unplugging and plugging back in. Still nothing. It's the first one. There we go. I'm back.
There we go.
Yeah, so like I was saying, where was I at?
You were talking about how we started out.
Oh,
and
I was
just
talking
men-
about I was talking about how there was a point in my life where I would spend hours of my day like caring about analytics from sports and like stats and knowing which players did what, and like, you know, even as a kid, I with baseball, with football, with, you know, basketball, you obsess over these things, and as you get older into adulthood, it carries over. You never kind of you never put that toy down.
Yeah.
And it's something that like socially makes sense because men will have those conversations. So if you feel like you don't know the information, you're kind of left out of the conversation.
And the more you know, the more prideful you are.
Right.
It's just a distraction. You realize that.
Yeah.
I remember the spell being broken, but it had to take them that me seeing the deception of because the NFL. I watch NFL, and you know it's a corporation, so they're gonna lean a certain way or take a certain stance on things, and I didn't agree with some of the stuff, and then I remember like. It kind of, you felt it break off of you. Like, you don't care as much.
Yeah.
Because I remember getting mad, my whole day or next few days when the Eagles would lose.
Yeah.
It would ruin my whole day, my whole mood.
Yeah.
My whole mood. Like, why did they have that hold on me?
Yeah. Because why does it matter that much to you to watch grown men play a game?
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree. I remember feeling that way too. I think for me it was like really during COVID. Just so many things broke in that spell for me because it was like you had to focus on so many other things. Like you started to see what really mattered. Like you started seeing the corporate side of everything, how they were still trying to like skirt they were telling us not to go outside, but they were still trying to do sports. Like it was like all of that just seemed so hypocritical to me.
Yeah,
and I was like, all right, I don't even want to watch. I don't think I really watched those seasons through that whole thing.
Yeah, I didn't really pay that much attention. I don't remember like really keeping track. I remember Nana making fun of me, like, you're not a real fan because you're not watching.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what to say.
But that's the thing. It's like you could just be like, I guess not. Like, I guess if it means that I have to obsess my whole life to be a fan, like, then I'm not, And I get that with some of the guys on the soccer team too, is because like I don't really watch soccer. You know, I don't have time to sit there and keep up. So they'll ask me about like this game or that game. Like I ain't watch it. Oh man, you don't even you how are you a soccer fan? You don't watch soccer? Like I like playing, I like getting the exercise, but I don't really spend the time watching it.
Yeah. Now I enjoy the game. Like I love. That's because I love the game. Like I played football and it's such a good game to me. But
yeah,
it's different. Like I remember, draft. I would. Oh, they need to get this. They need to get that. Yeah. Now I'm like, oh shoot, it was a draft.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
Little bro texted me like, yo, they got John Campbell.
Right, because he's still at that place where he cares so much about that. But I'm with you. I used to watch the draft and know exactly who they need to pick, and be mad because they didn't get them. And then it's just like once that spell kind of lifts from you, it just all seems kind of silly.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Yeah, you're right.
Like it's just like you're watching it, like, yo, this is so. Like when you watch people at the stadium going crazy and they're like all decked out and they want to fight people. It's like
I had that situation.
Yeah, it's just so silly. Like come on, guys. This is not that serious.
Shout out to everybody on the stream. I see Courtney, Papa Jeff. Courtney said family, happy Tuesday.
What's up, Court?
Courtney.
Uncle Mike Walling, he said, yeah, I quit watching when the athletes became overpaid prima donnas.
That was a while ago, huh?
And Thera said, my football team is Dallas and Boston for basketball.
Oh, okay. Well, that doesn't make any sense. You live in New Jersey, but you know, it is what it is. But anyway, we were saying all that to say that, you know, having these conversations and doing this podcast was our attempt to show that men could have conversations outside of those realms, and talk about serious things, talk about fatherhood, talk about, you know, how we can be better husbands, talk about like Christ and how we can continue to search the kingdom, you know, and also about politics. I remember like when we first started this, it was like right around when Trump first got elected, and all of the craziness that was going on in the media, and people were not up on it. And it was one of the things that we wanted to talk about on here. It was just like how the media has been lying to us. And now when you look at how many people have become awake to that, it's so hilarious to me. Like I said it when Trump got elected this time, like feeling like this podcast had a little bit to do with the shift in culture. It's fulfilling because like we've been talking the stuff we're going to go through today with the book that Jake Tapper just put out talking about Biden's cover up and all this stuff. It's like we've been talking about this the entire time.
That
like,
guy, Jake Tapper.
Yeah. But anyway, so we need people to support this type of thing. If you think that should continue, you can go ahead and go on over to our Patreon, patreon.com/youngliontv. Become a member over there. Sign up. Support what we do so that we can continue to do this. You know, it's not as easy as people think. You know, keeping the electronics going. You see, we had an issue with the cameras. You know, keeping everything going. Keeping all the streaming sites going and the streaming software and all those things. It's money. It costs money. So, you know, we appreciate the support, and shout out to all the Patreon members that support us and all the supporters in general, people that just send money, and we appreciate you guys. You guys are the reason why we can keep doing this and why we've been able to do it for so long, even though we've never blown up. Like we just kind of just been doing it faithfully once a week on Tuesday.
Some friends getting together talking.
We just like doing it.
Just like how we did it in the gym. But, what did James used to say?
Sit in the circle and talk for a while. Yeah.
We used to work out coming from the studio.
Yeah.
At midnight, and then our workout would be like maybe like an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I remember not getting home till like 5:30 sometimes.
Yep, because we would be done the workout by like 3 a.m., but then we would sit in the parking lot
and just talk.
And sometimes like the sun would be coming up and we're still talking. And that was the start of the podcast. That was the podcast before we had the technology to do it live. Shout out to David. He said, we support the truth. What's up, Lion fan? What's up, bro?
What up, bro?
Yeah, so the Patreon is a great way to support, but the easiest way, like I said, hit the like button, share the video, subscribe on the YouTube or Rumble. You can become a subscriber like our sister Theris on Facebook as well. There's a subscription model on there if you want to sign up to be a subscriber over there. All of that stuff helps us out and helps us keep everything going. But yeah, we were talking about the guy running for governor in the state.
No, Barack.
The guy that we had a run-in with. On Stan's birthday weekend.
Were we supposed to mention him?
We mentioned it before. We talked about that story. We told a story about how we had a run-in with the Newark mayor who was running for governor, Ras Baraka. And
Mom wasn't here for that.
No, she wasn't. My mom was away for this. But it was during Stan's birthday weekend. And we had like not such a good encounter with the whole situation. I'm not going to recap the whole story. You can go find it in one of the previous episodes. But it's just funny to see him like doing these antics now to get himself in the headlines. He went to an ICE detention facility in Newark, New Jersey, and got himself arrested for trespassing because they were like broke into the facility to protest, him and a bunch of other Democrats. And then one of them is now being charged with assault. I don't know if you saw the congresswoman who she assaulted one of the ICE agents. Yeah, she's a New Jersey congresswoman.
The one with the red outfit on?
Yes, the red outfit on.
Bro, it's all games and spectacles.
Yeah.
And it's a freaking circus. It reminds me, you know what it reminds me of?
What?
Like the whole immigration thing when AOC went to the border.
Yeah,
and
took the picture, did
crying,
the photo out.
And then there was other pictures of people showing that there was nobody there.
Right.
It's a game.
Yeah. First of all, she was acting like she was in the facility, and she wasn't in the facility. She was outside of the facility, and there was like a parking lot in front of the fence.
What's going on here?
Mom, don't worry about it. My mom's over there.
There he goes.
Yeah, I just wanted to show. This is the guy here, and this is the video of him being arrested. Photo out. Please take my picture. But I think smartly. Who's the lady that is the Department of Justice in New Jersey? She was Trump's lawyer before. Haba or something.
I'm bad with names, bro.
Well, anyway, she's the one in charge of charging these people. So she dropped the charges on him because she knew that he was just using it as like a political stunt, but decided to keep the charges on the woman who, this lady right here, what's her name? House Democrat melts down after New Jersey Democrat charged with assault at ICE. LaMonica Mulver. She's a New Jersey Democrat Congress member. Look at them glasses.
Bro, I found out originally on Instagram because I follow NewJersey.com.
Yeah.
For like New Jersey stuff. You know what I'm saying? They've been posting just crazy left-wing stuff.
New Jersey?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo,
I mean, that's how New Jersey is, though.
Yeah, but it's NewJersey.com. You're supposed to be, you're outcasting a whole, because, dude, we saw New Jersey
it almost went
red.
It almost went red this election.
And bro, all the comments is like, this is what NewJersey.com is doing now. I'm unfollowing. It's all like, stupid things like that. Oh, we got a new leader. And it's, a video of Baraka, holding the mic like this. It looked like he was about to spit a freaking...
a freestyle?
Yeah, freestyle. Dude, like it's all a game.
Let's look at the video here. So this is what was caught on camera. She's pushing her way through the ICE agents. She's swinging at people, and I think right here is where she closed fist punches this guy in the shoulder. I think that's what she's being charged with, assault right there. So, I mean, what do you think? Do you think she should be charged?
Definitely.
Do you think she should be charged?
She put her hands. I mean, it's extra. Like, she ain't hurting anybody.
Yeah.
But she shouldn't be doing that.
If a regular person assaulted a cop, a federal agent,
you're going to jail.
Would you not be going to exactly?
Yeah, you're going to jail.
And weren't they just preaching on every channel about how no one's above the law when they were trying to bring all these fake charges against Trump?
Yeah.
We heard how no one's above the law for months and months and months.
Yep.
And now they're out here protesting because they're above the law.
I swear that you're just reminding me of like all the videos of them, all of them. Who are y'all? Who's the puppet masters that's telling them to say the same thing? They all to say the same thing.
Yeah, they all.
That's the talking point right now. No one's above the law. That's all you'll hear.
Because they do like these focus groups that they test these phrases, and they use it as a catchphrase to just stir up emotion in people. I mean, you see it works. It works. But what's funny is it really only works with like the boomer generation. And sorry, Ma, I don't always mean to rag on the, I know I'm not talking about you, but the boomer generation is so, like, even if you look at the protests that they've been showing all over the place, it's all boomers. There's no young people at these protests. All of the, like, you know, anti-Doge, anti-Elon Musk and Trump protests, it's all boomers.
Can never answer any questions though.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot.
They
of
just get really
It's
emotional.
all boomers because they watch the news.
Yeah.
And they watch the fake media all the time, and that's what they sit in their homes and they watch that.
Yeah.
Even though my aunt is, older than me, of course, she's not like that. She watches TV and she watches the news, but she knows what's going on.
Right.
Like, she gets it. A lot of people don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch MSNBC all day, you're not getting the news.
Yeah.
If you watch Fox News all day, you're not getting the news. You're getting a very, like, one-sided, funneled version. Yeah. Here's Trump being questioned about this lady's arrest. See what he has to say about it.
He's weaponizing with the arrest of a congresswoman, Democratic congresswoman.
Oh, give me a break. Did you see her? She was out of control. Those days are over. The days of woke, no, I didn't. The days of woke are over. That woman, I have no idea who she is. That woman was out of control. She was shoving federal agents. She was out of control. The days of that crap are over in this country. We're going to have law and order.
Mr. President, thank you very much. You campaigned on lowering the price of groceries. How do you justify cutting food assistance in this bill?
Let me just tell you
Yeah, that's it. They went on to something else, but yeah, they try to get him all the time. Like, he does not care, bro.
Oh, give me a break.
Give me a break. She was out of control. Yeah, so that's going on in our state right now. These people, they don't, nothing better to do. Like, Newark doesn't have enough crime.
Right.
You know,
That's the thing, dude. Like, it's all a game. Just like the dude that went to freaking El Salvador.
yes. The people we showed the video of the people in his district that were like, what is he doing over there? Like,
We got issues here.
they ain't never seen that dude in their neighborhood.
They're like, who?
Right. I saw a video. People were talking about how bad it is in AOC's district in the Bronx. She's never there.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking about how bad it is there. Like, crime is through the roof right now.
She's out being a star.
Yeah, she's out campaigning around the country like she's about to be the next. She's their front runner.
Over Kamala?
Dude, big time. Hold on, I'm gonna see if I can find the chart.
Kamala.
Let me see if I can find the chart.
I was just in Delaware and I saw a sticker that said "Vote for Kamala."
Vote for Kamala.
It was the old school pin up. You ever see that picture with the it's like a cartoon, but it's like the 50s. The girls doing the muscle, but it was a picture of Kamala.
Let me see if I can find this.
So hold up, though. I thought that Bernie was running, and she is gonna be Bernie's partner.
Apparently not, dude. I think they're gearing up to run her. I mean, she is at this point. This is from May 14th. Pull this up, Mom. Yeah, look at this from May 14th, right? The polling. AOC 26%. Bernie's only at 12. Kamala's at 6. Gavin Newsom is at 2. So the closest is Bernie. That's why they're sending the two of them around.
I don't know.
Can you believe those charts?
I mean, if they're polling people, new survey reveals that 26% of Democrats say that AOC is the undisputed leader of the Democratic Party.
How?
With a bunch of laughing emojis, I will note that are after that.
How have these people,
Bro, but let me ask you this. Who else?
Newsom is better than her.
You really think that?
Shapiro. I mean, like,
Josh Shapiro, nobody knows him like that.
yeah.
Talk about like who people see.
She's the most famous. Yeah.
That's sometimes
And
that's all it
young.
takes.
But she is. I'm sorry. I hate criticizing people, but some of the stuff she says is dumb.
Bro, they just got done voting in a guy who had dementia and we just finding out had cancer.
Yeah. Nobody voted them.
Nobody voted?
Well,
Nobody voted
just
for him?
because
He won the primary?
Just
Hold up.
because
He won the primary.
He did, but he was their best one.
Exactly.
I guess
You understand my point?
I get your point.
My point is they have nobody else.
But my point is they don't want to win.
Well,
They need to find somebody.
I don't think they
I'm
can
sure
win with her as the candidate.
if they're smart, dude, they will make a star. You know what I mean? Somebody who is like, even keeled, somebody who's
Smart?
intellectual, someone who is some.
But this is
I
the
don't
thing.
know. I don't like. There's nobody.
Who can you think of anyone? Jasmine Crockett?
No, hey, she's worse than AOC.
Who else? Like everyone on this list are they got Cory Booker on this list. Talking about antics. Remember he used to be the mayor of Newark.
Yeah.
And remember he did some fake
the cat-
burning building
Yeah,
thing to get notoriety. Like this is what they do.
I knew that from insiders. That was
Yeah.
Like,
But look, Cory Booker's on this list. Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Gavin Newsom, Pete Buttigieg, Hakeem Jeffries, and Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett actually has the third most highest.
that's wild. Even Buttigieg, I think is, more level-headed than all of them.
I agree with that.
You know what I mean?
But does he have
he's
the star power? Does he have the star power?
against AOC? No.
Right.
AOC is like, she goes viral. And I don't get it.
For nothing.
I don't
She goes
get it.
viral for being dumb.
I hate calling people stuff but she says
Now I'm saying like the things that she said, she goes viral for saying dumb stuff.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
But people do watch her though. You know what I mean? Like when she's doing a live stream, people are watching her. And and she's not a bad looking,
That's why they watch her.
I mean, I don't see a bunch of men sitting down watching AOC live
No,
streams.
because they think she's an idiot.
But yeah, so anyway, that's the that's
I don't believe polls anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, this is a survey, so it's not a poll.
And bro, they're gonna prop up who they want to prop up. Like we've seen.
But I don't think they want to prop her up. I think they're looking at the numbers and they're saying this is what we got to do right now. Because they have 4 years
yeah,
to get her ready, pretty much. Well, 2.5 years, if they really want to get a campaign going properly.
I cannot see it, dude.
They're already doing it. She's going around the country doing these.
I can't. Yo, she's gonna be messed up. She's scared to debate people.
I know. Bro.
Candace has been trying to debate her for years. She don't want to.
How have they been operating over the last 2 elections? Kamala didn't want to debate.
Yeah.
Joe Biden hid in the
basement.
His entire campaign.
That should be, there should be rules to, if you can't debate and you can't be out on the campaign, you're not fit to run.
Yeah, but who's to say? Who's to say? Like that, they would say like you can't make that assessment from that. It's definitely interesting times though.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
But
like who's the front? Like Crockett and then AOC. It's crazy to me.
And Bernie. Which Bernie again. So now all these people are realizing that mainstream media, and we're going to go into right now the whole Jake Tapper thing and CNN and the whole shift that's happening, because now for some reason they want to expose that Joe Biden's health was a cover up. Jake Tapper put this book out. Did you hear about this, Mom?
What?
The book that Jake Tapper put out?
About Joe Biden?
Yeah.
No.
So is he taking blame for himself? Because this is he was like,
I got a clip of
you're how dare you make fun of his stuttering
Listen,
problem.
I got a clip of Megyn Kelly calling him out for that. Like she was interviewing him and called him out for that. So
Yeah.
we'll get to that. But yeah, I think the way he's spinning it is we were lied to, so it's not our fault. He's making it like the Democrats did this, but the media was just lied to. You know what I mean?
I think Jake is on.
Yeah, it sounds like Jake is on. All right, let me pull him up. You can read some of the comments. I see some comments in there.
David said AOC only gets attention because she's pretty. I'm a Puerto Rican born in San Juan, and we don't support her. Yeah, like Jamie was talking about, her district don't support her. I remember when Trump was going, didn't he have like a rally in her district, and she was like, nobody's gonna come out, and it ended up being like thousands and thousands of people waiting in line to come see Trump.
That's exactly what happened.
What's up, Jake?
What's up, dude? We see you on there.
Hey, Jake.
What's up?
Mike?
Hey, Jake.
You hear me?
Oh, we got it. We got you double.
We got
Let
it.
me,
We got an
fix it.
echo. We got an echo delay. Yeah, that was the only comment. It's from David.
All right, talk, Jake.
Yeah.
Why are we getting you doubled up?
Give me.
That sounds crazy. Speaking of San Juan, we gonna be there soon, right?
Am I still
Yeah.
have?
Yeah, still has
Yeah,
an
still echo. It'll be my first time in Puerto Rico.
Oh, nice. I love Puerto Rico.
When was the last time you went?
Oh man, but I went like 3 or 4 times, but it's been years.
You only went 3 or 4 times?
Let me hear you, Jake.
Hey,
Still echo.
good.
No.
Man, we're usually fine.
You think it'll be on his side if he had like speaker on or something?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. It might be on your side.
Oh, it's better now.
There we go.
All right. But now we don't have it more. Let me see.
There you go, nice and big.
All right, try now.
Hey,
Here we go.
There
am
we
I
go.
good?
Yeah. You gotta go to Old San Juan. Nice.
Yeah, I wanna visit Old San Juan.
All right. We were just talking about all the shenanigans going on in New Jersey with the guy running for governor and then
Baraka.
the Democratic congresswoman who got charged with assault, and then leading us into them the front runner being AOC. Like now she's pulling ahead as like the clear front runner in a new survey, new poll.
It's still early.
And now we're going to talk about Jake Tapper putting out that book that was exposing how they've been hiding Biden's cognitive abilities for the longest, and he's taking no
Who
account.
y'all hiding it from?
Yeah, we all know.
The people knew.
Yeah, but they wouldn't say it. We all knew. We've been saying it
The
forever.
people
Like it was
knew.
obvious to anyone who didn't have Trump derangement syndrome, and anyone who had who was not under the team spell of like the
Yeah.
Democrats can do no wrong. But let me play this clip right here. I'm gonna go to this view, Mom, because then Jake can be.
But President Biden walked down to the end of the stage of this fundraiser for a moment. You can see
Now, remember this fundraiser? We showed this during
Was that
the campaign, right? Before this was when he was still the candidate at the time, right? And remember when Barack Obama goes to the front to like wrangle him because he kind of gets lost on stage?
Yeah.
We showed this clip on the podcast and talked about it. And remember, this was when they inserted the word language of cheap fake. Remember that whole
Yes.
thing?
That never stuck.
The
That never
cheap fake
stuck.
thing that they tried to put on everybody, that if you see these videos of Biden, they're not deep fakes, they're cheap fakes. Remember that
Yeah.
that whole thing? So that's what he's going to get into here.
But President Biden walked down to the end of the stage of this fundraiser for a moment. You can see it right there, and seemed to stare a little blankly into the crowd, and then President Obama tugged on him. You saw that tug and led him off the stage. So you just said you spoke to a lot of people who were there for that. What else did they tell you about it?
Well, Obama's side of that story is he wasn't sure what was going on, but he just wanted to get out of there, and he wasn't going to get out of there without Biden, so he grabbed him, and it was more just his impatience than anything else. But other people who were there, and we should note that the Biden White House falsely, when people showed that clip and asked what was going on, said it was a cheap fake. They did this all the time when there was video that seemed to show Biden acting in an odd or unusual, seemingly out of it way. They would call it a cheap fake. It was not fake. It was actual video.
Now, I just want to point out the clear gaslighting and unaccountability there, saying that the Biden White House was calling it cheap fakes. I clearly remember us playing mad media stories of them reiterating that phrase over and over again. We showed multiple clips of them using that.
So y'all believe everything the White House says, and you're just
Only when
you're-
it's Biden's.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Only when it's a Democrat in office, they believe everything. And if you don't believe everything, then you're a conspiracy theorist, right?
And people in the arena who did not see the horrifying scene behind the stage, but in the arena, Congresswoman Annie Kuster, John Favreau, former Obama chief speechwriter, and others, just from that event and Biden walking towards the edge of the stage, thought, oh my God, something is wrong here. He's not going to make it.
So all of these people knew something was wrong just from that moment. None of the other stuff that had been happening for years up until that point.
Yeah.
It's just like the lie about the debate is the thing that, oh, now we just can't. We have to move on from Biden. Like, because I remember this, after this was when they pushed to get the debate earlier in June, because they usually never do a debate in June. They always do the debate after the convention. They wanted to push to do the first debate in June. Why? And we kept saying, like, why are they doing that? And it's so obvious now that they needed, like, they saw that they couldn't fake it anymore. They were trying too hard to cover up the cognitive decline, cover up all the ways they were doing it with the fake Oval Office, with the big teleprompters everywhere, with the staged, everything he was doing. They couldn't cover it up anymore, but they needed to save face by having a big moment to say,
This is the reason.
because otherwise they would have to answer questions like, how long did you know this, blah, 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 the questions that everyone has now that they don't want to talk about. So they used that debate because they figured if we still can have enough time to get someone else in, then that June debate will give us enough time.
Yeah, and it still didn't make any sense because they they were. I heard something about them like fighting internally to try to like nobody believed in Kamala.
Yeah,
but they didn't do like a primary
Yeah.
to get other candidates who were
and all of the fundraising for
Money.
Biden would have been lost.
Yeah.
Because technically they could still use it for Kamala because she was under the same ticket.
Yeah.
So that had another factor to play. Yeah.
It's like they were just like, we're in it now. We got to rock with this.
Yeah, but it's just hilarious that now, after the election's over, now all of a sudden we have all this information and we want to write a book about it, and Jake Tapper is getting to the bottom of it. Watch this other clip of him trying to expose the Democrats now.
I think the degree to which the team around President Biden was hiding him and sequestering him, mainly starting in the fall of 2023, cannot be overstated. There's a cabinet meeting in October 2023, and then several cabinet members told us for the book they never saw him again in person for months and months and months. He was kept away from them, and cabinet secretaries we spoke to for the book told us it was weird. One of them did have a meeting with Biden in between that last cabinet meeting of 2023 in October and the debate, and described him as being disoriented and out of it. And I think the degree to which he was being hidden from even their own administration cannot be overstated.
So when did he get that information?
Exactly. And why wasn't he curious about this? Why didn't he have these questions before? Because it was clear to everyone who was watching that this was going on. Why didn't he have any of these questions before? Now all of a sudden he has all this clarity on the situation. Yeah,
what's the moment that where's the switch? You know what I'm saying? Like, because this guy was the main guy that was like defending Biden.
Yeah,
I remember watching so many things.
Yep.
You know, it's you're making fun of somebody who has a speech impediment. And, you know, he's old, or it's.
Let me show you, because Megyn Kelly brings that up, because he was interviewing Laura Trump, and she brought up Biden's clear cognitive decline, and he goes on this whole thing about how are you mocking someone with a stutter? Yeah. And this is the first time we ever heard that Biden had a stutter. Remember, they brought that into the equation to try to.
He ran for president how many times?
Yeah.
And nobody. He never stuttered.
Yeah.
Do you want to apologize to Laura Trump now?
Oh, this is the other clip. Hold on. Ooh.
You covered the Biden presidency aggressively throughout the 4 years, and you didn't cover mental acuity hardly at all. I mean, time and time again, when issues came up, you seemed to be running cover for the president.
I don't think
interested.
that's true.
Well, I mean, we'll start with the Laura Trump issue that you referred. Here it is. This happened in 2020.
Joe Biden, as we all know, has worked to overcome a stutter. How do you think it makes little kids with stutters feel when they see you make a comment like that?
First and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly a cognitive decline.
Okay.
That's what I'm referring to. It makes me uncomfortable
You are
to
no
watch somebody on stage search for
that's so
questions.
amazing.
You're trying to tell me that what I was suggesting was
I think that you
stuttering.
were mocking his stutter.
Idea, Joe
Yeah,
Biden.
I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no
Jake.
standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline.
And it's very concerning to a lot of people that this could be the leader of the free world.
Okay.
That is all I'm saying. I genuinely
Thank you,
feel
Laura
sorry
Trump.
for Joe Biden.
I appreciate it. I'm sure it was from a place of concern. We all believe that. Laura Trump, thank you so much.
So snarky.
So that's where the other video comes in, where she says, "Do you want to apologize to her?" Because like clearly,
he went hard.
Dude, you was going hard to cover for Joe Biden's clear not being able to speak.
Do you want to apologize to Laura Trump now?
I've already apologized to her. I called her months ago.
And what did she say?
I mean, I don't want to disclose the contents of a private conversation, but I thought the conversation went well. And she said, she has said this publicly, so I feel fine of sharing it. She said that she would never mock anybody's stutter. But I mean, after we did the research for this book, and I realized how bad his acuity issues were, I called Laura Trump and I said you were right.
She was totally right.
What'd you say, Jake?
Stop it.
Yeah.
Dude,
Like
this
this,
gaslight.
this is my, when he says that after we did the research for this book, why didn't you do the research as a journalist before?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this isn't like rocket science stuff, man. You don't need a lot of research
Yeah.
to see this. Like, you just gotta listen to him talk. It's that simple.
Yep.
And it was that clear. If we could see it, then anybody else could see it. And if you didn't want to see it, obviously you gotta be gaslighting. Stutter. We remember when they started talking about it. Since when did Joe Biden have a stutter?
Yeah.
Never had a stutter. Now you talking about a stutter? Stop it.
I wonder if she give any pushback on that. Where did that come from? The stutter thing.
I don't think she did.
Where did you hear that from?
But we know a lot of people that personally that challenged that when you would bring up like the fact that Biden wasn't cognitively there. They would make excuses. They would lie. They would act like, oh, that's not true. But now it's all coming out. Another point they were raising is it's clear that all of those pardons, a lot of his executive orders were signed with this auto pen. Mm-hmm. And if this dude was not coherent enough to be doing the job, if he was in hiding, like you heard what he said, they found out from aides and staffers that they didn't meet with Biden for months. They couldn't get in touch with him. What was he doing?
Mm-hmm.
So someone put together all
cream.
of these signatures, right? They're all from the auto pen. So they're saying, now they're investigating this. And they're saying, are these things valid if he didn't actually sign them?
I hope somebody goes to jail.
They need to. And that's why it's so funny how coincidentally after all of that is picking up steam, it's in like I'm watching CNN panels where of course Scott Jennings is like destroying all of them when they're trying to argue against this. The View they're just saying like they don't know what to do. People don't know how to respond to this. And it's making the Democrats look even more and more corrupt. Then they drop this story about Biden having cancer.
Yep.
Why do you think they drop it?
Just to divert them somewhere else so that they don't talk about this.
It's because you can't talk bad about Biden's health now because he has cancer, or else you don't have a heart. You're a bad person.
Yeah.
And this is what you started seeing. Like this is CNN tease up David Axelrod to say what they want. Like this is what happened when they asked him about the cancer diagnosis.
His medical condition now, his announced medical condition now, do you believe that silences or delays a lot of conversations about his, last year and a half of his presidency for now?
Like literally teeing him up with that question.
They want the story to die and fizzle
should
away.
this silence or maybe delay the conversation and so we can forget about it?
Y'all make it way too obvious.
Right.
Yeah, well, I think those conversations are going to happen, but they should be more muted and set aside for now as he's struggling through this.
Exactly. Should be muted or set aside. Now, listen, I feel bad for Biden. I feel like, this terrible news. They're saying that this is like a very advanced, aggressive form of prostate cancer that has metastasized to the bone. But they're also saying that that type of aggressive cancer takes years to develop. So there's also a scandal behind how long did they know he's had this cancer. And there's clips that have surfaced of him saying he had cancer.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, and they covered it up. Hold on. I see if I can find.
abuse, dude.
I see.
That's
Now,
abuse.
they're talking
We
about
said
investigating Jill Biden for elder abuse now.
Dude, we said that before.
Yep.
We said that before because we saw that this guy was not capable of even finishing a sentence.
Yeah.
He couldn't talk. And he just looked like a frail old man, and we said that. We're like, this seems like it's elderly abuse.
It was a 4-lane highway.
Check out this clip.
And because it
This was in 2022.
It was a 4-lane highway that was accessible. My mother drove us, and rather than us be able to walk. And guess what? The first frost, you know what was happening? You had to put on your windshield wipers to get literally the oil slick off the window. That's why I and so damn many other people I grew up have cancer. And why for the longest time, Delaware had the highest cancer rate in the nation.
You heard what he said?
He said, I.
That's why I and
am.
so many people I grew up around have cancer. And I remember after this clip came out and people were like, oh, Joe Biden says he has cancer. They're like, oh, no, he misspoke. You know, they came with all the news articles saying, oh, no, he was talking about skin lesions on it that's technically could be considered. Like they went above and beyond to cover it up. So was he telling us something there? You know.
He always said, I'm probably going to get in trouble for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Anytime he took questions.
You're the president.
Remember that too? How many times did we show that part of it? Like anytime he did a press conference, anytime he did a speech, immediately after, they would not let anyone ask questions. They would rush him out of the room, yell over top of everybody so no one could ask a question. And if he took a question, he would say he's going to get in trouble.
Yeah. Yep.
Why do you think that? Like, if that wasn't obvious that they're trying to cover up something, this is why
you're looking into stuff, Jamie. Stop.
But this is why the news media is not trusted. This is why Jake Tapper. No one wants to. Like, I hope nobody buys his book, just because, like, bro, stop trying to profit off of, you know, lying to the public for years.
Yeah,
now he's trying to tell the truth in a book.
Yeah.
And he's lied for all those years.
Exactly.
Yeah, he definitely, to me, he doesn't come off as being, you know,
genuine,
a good person, a genuine person.
Yeah.
Uncle Mike said, yes, AOC might be the front runner according to polls. However, remember this quote from Chuck Schumer just a couple days ago when reminded about 27% approval rating, quote unquote, polls come and go.
They do. Polls change a lot. And we know for a fact that polls are all skewed and they can show anything you want to show. Remember that poll that they tried to put out there a couple days before the election that showed that Trump was going to lose Iowa? Remember that?
Yep. And the one lady that said, oh, this is what I do.
Yeah.
She went and got wine and said,
yeah,
I'm celebrating Madam President.
Yep. Yeah, we showed that video. Let's show one more clip of Tapper on CNN talking about the Democrats with what's his name? Vance. What's his name?
Van, I remember how emotional you were in the immediate moments after the June 27th, 2024 debate because of what you saw on the stage. And with all this new reporting coming out, and I should disclose that I gave both of you copies of the book so you would have a little bit more information. Do you feel like you were duped, Van? Like, how do you feel?
He's pushing his book, boy.
First, this book is extraordinary. I don't care who you are, left, right, or otherwise. Anybody who cares about this country and about just the dynamics of power, this is the emperor's new clothes playing itself out in real time. Everybody knew, but everyone was afraid to say, except for David Axelrod for 2 years, that something was wrong here. And so, I was shocked. I love Joe Biden. I don't like him. I love him. I got a chance to work with him when I was a part of the Obama administration and loved him more every day. I was shocked to see his condition when he came out, and so was the world. And that wasn't the first time he was in that condition. The book makes it very, very clear. There are people who knew and said nothing. And that is a crime against this republic. And I think the Democrats are going to pay for a long time for being a part of what is now being revealed to be a massive cover-up.
The people knew.
Yep. What happened to Jake? Where's he at?
Republicans knew, but
oh, Mom covered him with the other screen. You gotta bring Jake back up. Yeah.
Laura Trump knew.
Man, everybody knew that there wasn't trying to cover up for the Democrats. That's why it's just no one trusts the mainstream media anymore. Like they even for Van Jones to get on here and lie and say like, you know, it was a shock to people to see him like that on the debate stage. We were all saying, is he going to be able to get through this debate?
Yeah.
And when I think we watched that debate live on the stream, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
The debate he had in 2020
was
bad.
Right.
Like, I was amazed. I was thinking, there's no way people aren't seeing this and having like questioning what's going on.
Yeah.
I mean,
that
obviously,
TDS, man.
obviously, yeah. Obviously, it wasn't as bad as it is, you know, now we're back in the summer, but it still was bad then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. I mean, remember when he was running in the primary? Remember when it like the one time he just walked off the stage, was like looking behind everybody. The other time they showed him on camera, his eye exploded with blood. Remember, remember?
Yeah.
You remember all of that?
Yes.
Remember he kept saying crazy stuff. Like that was in the primaries.
Mm-hmm.
And then I couldn't believe that this guy, they were really gonna push him to be the because again, even that they did the same thing they did to Bernie in 2016. They kind of gave him the shaft in that election as well.
Mm-hmm.
And they pushed Biden. Like they have this weird system with the super delegates and all that stuff that the Democrats can kind of like rig any primary they want.
Yeah, it should be illegal.
Yeah. But again, the mainstream media is totally losing all of its credibility because of stuff like this. So I want to move on. We're going to get to Wes Huff on Flagrant, but I'm going to transition into that by Tim Dillon did an interview with CNN, and the lady is trying to set him up with like him and Joe Rogan and these like comedian podcasters are the new like right-wing establishment. And I want to play his response to it. Because he kind of like, they did this whole interview with him, like this long interview, but they've been taking forever to put it out because they've been trying to edit it so much because, you know, Tim Dillon has a way of, he's a smart guy. He knows how to talk and not get himself in trouble. So the woman interviewing him couldn't like trap him every time she was trying to.
But I ask because, do you feel like you're part of a new establishment that's being created?
I don't think I'm part of a new establishment. I think it would be pretty difficult to look at these podcasts. I know it's a popular thing right now, especially in certain media circles, to say that after running an incredibly unpopular candidate who was introduced very late in the race because an elderly man who could not be the president, who everyone told was functioning as the president for 4 years, decided to, this wind is wild, huh?
Yeah.
See? But this was a very specific circumstance in which Kamala Harris ran for president. She was somewhat unpopular, and she was not a star in Democratic politics before this at all. And her communication strategy was pretty weak. I think that most people admitted that. So to hang this defeat all on a few podcasts and to say that they were the problem, I just don't buy the narratives. I don't think I'm a new establishment. If you weigh, again, a few comedians with podcasts versus all of the people that supported Kamala Harris, you know, Democrat donors, billionaires, big people, if the idea is that me and a few comedians have more power than multi-billionaires, huge media institutions, a whole political party apparatus, I just don't think most people are going to buy that. I think it seems like a great way to excuse running an unpopular candidate on a platform that American people weren't sold on.
I think it's even beyond politics, though, even beyond the question of the election. Like, again, I know that the like liberal Joe Rogan conversation is so dominant, and I think not like nuanced enough. But there is power in a massive audience.
There's absolutely power in a massive audience. But if you're saying that that power is equal to the CIA or
course
all of
not
these
the
other
CIA.
people that have been very critical of President Trump, right?
Yeah.
So the idea that like the power that Theo Von has would be equal to like the intelligence agencies or these massive legacy media institutions seems crazy.
But you got way more audience than like
Then-
when
then-
you're saying
yeah.
we don't have power, we're not the CIA. Well, there's some gradations between that, and also I'm sure
Sure.
there's like.
Well, just you use the word establishment.
Yeah.
I didn't say that we didn't have any power or that audiences weren't powerful. But when you use the term establishment, I think that that's more than just having an audience. That's having an institutional component that I don't think we have. But I think legacy media does. I think the government and the intelligence communities do. I think Hollywood certainly does. And I think all of those people, all of those power factions have worked together for a very, very, very long time. So to say that a few comedians with podcasts equal that seems crazy.
I see
to
why.
me.
Okay, I understand.
That's the only thing I'm saying.
That was
He kind
That
of
was good. He
dismantled
did-
her. But I will say I do kind of disagree with him a little bit because I feel like those institutionalized powers that he's talking about, again, they have power over the boomers.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the younger generations, the people that President Trump made inroads with, massive inroads with, the younger generation, those... Mom, what are you doing, Mom? What are you doing? Yeah, just leave it. Just leave it.
I'm gonna take it down, but I forgot you put it up.
Oh, yeah, I got it. They have. He had made mass inroads with. It's because they don't watch the established
They
media
watch
anymore.
who?
They don't listen to the CIA. They don't believe the CIA.
Yeah.
They don't believe the mainstream media. They don't believe the Democratic establishment. They watch podcasters.
Yes.
They watch people
Yeah.
that they built up a trust with, or because they know that people like Joe Rogan, people like Theo Von, even him, even Flagrant, because
It was Barron that told his dad, like, yo,
you got to go on these platforms.
go on these podcasts.
But they built
go on
up a-
Theo Von. I'm a big fan of Theo Von.
Right. And why have they built up a trust? Because these people are genuinely just they're interested in topics.
Yeah.
They're authentic. They're not doing things with an agenda.
And they're not right wing. Stop
Yeah.
doing that.
Yep.
Stop doing that because they're interviewing everybody.
Right.
They're giving Kamala a chance to go on
She
there.
don't wanna-
She don't
they
want to
can't
do that.
it. They can't.
Yeah,
they can't
she-
stand up to the scrutiny of a podcast because they can't have
They're
a real
not genuine.
conversation.
They're
Yeah,
not
exactly.
Listen, it's like having Billy Carson on, and then Wes Huff kind of like destroys that narrative.
Yeah.
Billy Carson ain't going back on
He ain't
Joe
going
Rogan
back. No.
because he knows, it's over for him in
Right.
that way. Like, he could try to explain himself out of it, but like he probably be like, well, I don't want to. If he does go on there, he's not going to want to talk about the Bible.
Yeah.
He's not going to call. He's done with calling himself an expert.
Yeah.
He's definitely done with that. So
you sure
it's
he's done?
just-
Well, he's
I-
done. He's done. He's
Oh, he's
saying
done.
he's done doing it on those platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's done in terms of he will not call himself expert.
Right.
He will not, like, I've seen him. He's brought on his own platform like a Bible guy to try to debunk Wes Huff, but to go on a neutral platform and do that, he
Yeah.
won't do it.
Right.
Because he'll get exposed, So, and that's the same thing. Like, you see how, these people want to do podcasts now. They're saying it works, but they're only going to do the ones that they feel comfortable doing because they don't want to be exposed.
Yeah. Exactly. And when you look at these podcasters, like they call them right wing, but like I said, there's a difference between, like, even look at Tim Pool. He's considered alt-right, right wing. When I first started watching Tim Pool, he hated Trump.
Yeah, he did.
He was a lefty.
He didn't vote for him.
He was a lefty.
Living in Pittman.
Yeah, living in Pittman, New Jersey. He was a leftist commentator.
Called himself center left.
Yeah, but he was very lefty when I first started watching him. But I appreciated his take on things because I could tell he was being honest.
Yeah.
And I could see the fact that
Right.
he won't allow a bias to interrupt truth.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, if he finds out a truth, that supersedes his own bias.
Right.
But he just interviewed a guy on Friday, This guy, he had a Netflix show, Adam Hates Everything or something like that. He is such a lefty.
Yeah, that dude is a lefty.
And he was talking to him about like these left-wing biases that they don't pay attention to truth, or they don't pay attention to the news. And then he brought up Trump saying they're very fine people. And the guy was like, yeah, I remember seeing that clip. He said that about that there was very fine people on both sides. And Tim Pool got like pissed. He's like, see, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't read the news. He didn't say that. He's like, the fact that years later you still think he said that. He brought up the Snopes article like, yo, Trump did not say this. You know what I mean? But then once the dude was proven wrong, he didn't want to talk about it anymore. He's like, well, I don't know everything that you know, but it doesn't matter. You know what I mean?
But you're using it though.
Exactly. You used it as an example for something to prove that Trump was terrible. But once you found out that that wasn't real, now you don't want to talk about that anymore. And so that's what I'm talking about, where it's like the truth doesn't matter. The truth is below your loyalty to your ideology.
Right.
As opposed to people like Joe Rogan or these people that the truth can move their ideology.
Right. And you see that in real time. Like when you're having these conversations, they're like, oh, okay. And that's bouncing. And you can't do that on like a legacy media interview.
Nope.
Dude, speaking of Joe Rogan, that was the phrase that took he loved Obama.
Yeah.
He talks about it all the time. He actually said that when he saw Obama say that thing that has been debunked by Snopes, they're very fine people, he was like, now, I know you're a smart person, and you know that's a lie.
Yeah.
But you're using that at the end of, before the election to try to get people, upset. Like, why are you doing
Why are you lying to people? Remember, Joe Biden said the reason why he got into the race, his first campaign ad was that clip of "They're very fine people." He said the reason why he got into the race was because Trump said that. Remember? He ran his whole campaign based off of that.
These people know.
Yeah, he brought it up in the debate. And he tried to, he went hard. He kept going back to that in the debate. And not only that, didn't Kamala Harris bring it up in the
She brought it up as well.
Yeah.
Yep, she brought it up. So
I had a conversation with somebody, and they mentioned that. And I pulled up the clip. Dude, like, you have to watch it for yourself. You can't listen to what they're telling you. He didn't say that about, neo-Nazis.
What happened when you showed them the clip?
Like, oh. They felt dumb. But it's like, don't feel dumb.
Right.
Just don't
realize that
listen.
they're lying to you.
Yeah, don't listen to what because they want you to feel a certain way. That's all. Like, that's witchcraft.
Right.
Dude, that's witchcraft.
It is. And meanwhile, like
this is.
Go ahead, Jake.
I was saying this is the same thing they're doing with the cancer thing. You know, like they're using empathy. And that's that moral thing. Like with the left, it's always. I think that's a spell that I think is starting to break over this country.
Yeah.
Where morally you think that if you don't have empathy for somebody in a perverted way, because it's perverted, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not overly empathetic, then you're not actually morally elite.
Yeah.
Or you're not virtuous.
Yeah.
You're not. Again, that's where the whole virtue signaling thing comes from.
Well, that's where the whole stutter spell was based out of, right? Like, why even bring up the fact that he had a stutter? It was to beat her into a immoral place by the fact that you're even bringing up that he couldn't speak is because he had a stutter. It's like that. Even all of that is a tactic that they use over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
But
Uncle Michael did say something about, he said his stutter was a stutter step.
Yeah, we saw that on
he fall down.
Right. I want to show this clip from Joe Rogan because we're talking about these podcasts. We're talking about their shifts, and we're talking about like watching them in real time change their views on things. And Joe Rogan, we've been talking about this before, like these shifts in his views on Christianity. And there was this moment on a podcast recently that kind of went viral that I just wanted to play.
Well, space is the ultimate who the fuck knows because we can only see so far. We see so far, but even so far is only so far.
Well, and then they're saying like it's always expanding, which that can't be true because like what is it expanding into? If space is space,
You don't see anything.
You know, if they're like, oh, it's like blowing up a balloon where everything's okay, but you're blowing up a balloon in a room,
right?
So what's the room that you're blowing the balloon into? And then that's in a bigger room, and then that's in
right.
this.
And then there's the concept that it's actually finite. It's not infinite. And it's some sort of donut shape. It like goes back around eventually.
But then who made all that?
Right?
Like, is there a God? Did God make this?
Or is God the universe?
Yeah, but then who made God? And then that bothers me.
Right.
Like, who made that thing?
Is that a thing that we think that like because we were born and we die that we have these biological limitations that we attach to the universe itself?
That's fair. That we see things as being built and destroyed.
That there's always been something. Wouldn't it be crazy if there wasn't something at one point in time? That seems even crazier. Then there always has been something. Because if it's just something, if it's just the nature of everything, there is always something, right? It couldn't be nothing and then all of a sudden everything. That seems
because what started that? What kicked that off?
Exactly.
What snapped its fingers? Like
that's McKenna's great line. Terrence McKenna had a great line about the difference between science and religion is that science only asks you for one miracle. I want you to believe in one miracle, the Big Bang.
Yeah. That's a good one.
It's a great line.
Yeah.
It's because it really is true.
Yes.
And it's funny because people would be incredulous about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but yet they're convinced that the entire universe was smaller than the head of a pin, and for no reason that anybody's adequately explained to me. Makes sense.
Yeah. No.
Instantaneously became everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't buy that.
I'm sticking with Jesus on that one. Like, Jesus makes more sense.
I can't believe you said that.
You hear what he said? I'm sticking with Jesus on that one. Jesus makes more sense. Like, you would have never thought you would hear Joe Rogan say that out of his mouth. But yeah, like him having all these conversations with deep intellectual people and then starting to shape, like, wait, some of this don't make no sense. Some of this is not adding up. This is adding up more over here. This is not adding up. But this is why they've built in such a loyal fan base that trusts them because they know that they're honest and authentic.
Yeah.
You know, they're not dogmatic.
Yeah.
Like
or on a team.
Yeah.
You know,
and I'm gonna stick to this team no matter what.
You were just talking about Tim Pool. Like you've seen him shift.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, his ideas change.
Even
he's seen the truth.
Yeah.
He's starting to see the truth, just like Joe Rogan.
We watched Joe Rogan ship. He was an I'll never vote for Trump guy.
Yes. He said
I'll never have Trump on my podcast.
Him on my podcast
because I don't want to help him.
Yeah. That gives him a platform.
Yeah. But it's just I wanted to give that example because it shows why the mainstream media is losing because they don't, and they're saying like we need our left wing Joe Rogan, you know.
Yeah.
And that's why she was making the statement to Tim Dillon. She's trying to show like, oh, you guys have your own little club of establishment right wing comedian podcasters. Shows that she doesn't know what the heck she's talking about because none of them are right wing, but they think that they need their version of that, which is not going to be authentic.
Yeah. Yep.
You know.
And that's why they're losing.
Flagrant.
It's because they're not authentic.
Flagrant is a group of one dude is a like grew up Catholic, but really, you know, the other guy
Akash is Indian.
He's a Hindu. The other guy's agnostic, like weird kind of black guy that paints his nails, and then you got Andrew Schultz.
Does he really paint his nails?
Yeah, he does. So I want to show this clip from Flagrant because again, this is I'm leading into the Wes Huff interview, but this was so Flagrant's been killing it. They had Wes Huff on for a long interview, which was very interesting.
I gotta watch.
You gotta watch the whole thing. Yeah. Like we will show some clips, but the whole thing is really good. But then they have Bernie Sanders on, right, to interview him, and you're thinking, okay, comedians, Bernie Sanders interview. They asked this dude some real questions. So I'm going to play this clip right here. I'll pull it up.
I have to ask this. I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt you. We have a question we want to ask about what happened to you in 2016 with this Bernie Bros movement, where your followers are seeing they have a racism problem, a misogyny problem. Do you think that's a super PAC thing behind that?
That was the Democratic establishment. That was the...
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was just... They were sitting there...
That was wild. You told me about that. I couldn't believe it.
He literally called it out the Democrats for trying to frame the Bernie Bros as like misogynist and racist. But
so
go ahead.
So he's talking about that, and then he's always like the oligarchy.
Yeah,
is he lumping them in that whole thing?
Keep watching.
Yeah, we had a lot of young people. We had people of color, and you know they create this kind of myth with the help of the corporate media and all that stuff.
You know, it's kind of interesting. To that note, is during this election, the
podcast space, which the Democrats largely avoided, they feel had some influence in the election, and they started to label us the podcast bros and said that we were sexist and we were racist and bigoted. It's almost like it's the exact same strategy to get you out of there.
Yeah, that's what the liberal elite China does. They run away. Look, again, I would hope that everybody who's watching the program is that we as a nation have got to end all forms of bigotry, right?
Yes.
That I start off as a basic assumption.
Unless it's to your close friends, right?
Yeah, whether it's racism or sexism, homophobia or xenophobia, whatever it is. But, and liberal Democrats talk about that all the time. And then you get to what we call identity politics.
Yeah.
That you're black, you're wonderful, you're tremendous, you're gay, you're the greatest human being on earth.
Yeah.
And rather than say, what do you stand for?
Exactly.
You're gay, that's fine, who cares?
Yeah.
But what do you stand for?
Yeah.
Is every gay person brilliant and wonderful and great? No, of course not. Everybody's a human being.
Yeah.
So the issue is what you stand for, which gets you back to what we discussed earlier, class politics, in the sense of which side are you on? Are you going to stand with working families? Are you going to raise the minimum wage to a living wage or not? Are you going to fight to guarantee health care to all people or not? Are you going to demand that the wealthiest people start paying their fair share of taxes or not? Those are the issues. And no one cares what color you are, what your gender is, et cetera, et cetera.
I'm sorry. I have to ask this. I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt you. We have a question we want to ask about.
It gets to what you were saying, I think, in this clip here.
The problem I think a lot of voters had is like they didn't even know if it was her. We didn't even know if Biden was president. We didn't even know if these were her talking points. And we felt that over the last 4 elections, Democrats, we felt that we didn't have a say on who could be president. We talk a lot about the Republicans being autocrats and oligarchs and taking over democracy, but from the Democrat perspective, and I'm a lifelong Democrat, I felt like the Democratic Party completely removed the democratic process from its constituents. And I think they need to have some accountability of that.
No argument here.
I donated for you. I wanted you to, like, 2016. I was like, this is going to happen. This guy's going to do it, and it felt like they stole it from me. And I'll be honest, it broke my heart when you supported him.
Look, but you have, in the world that I live in, you got a choice. And
he said it broke my heart when you supported them after they did that to you, and he said I had a choice.
I mean, a lot of people, including my wife, agree with you, but. You're down to a choice. Is it going to be Hillary Clinton or is it going to be Donald Trump? Not a great choice.
But it ended up being him anyway, so why don't we burn it down?
Well, because it's easy to say burning it down means that children are not going to have food to eat, that the schools will deteriorate, people will not have health care.
I got it.
And I'm an elected official. I got to represent the people.
That's fair.
And I can't turn my back on.
But then could we not also say if ostensibly there hasn't been a fair primary for the Democrats since 2008, are they not also a threat to democracy? Yes. We often hear.
Fair enough. That is. Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that.
Bro. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I don't know what to say. I can't believe it.
But this is why they don't do these podcasts.
Because the truth comes out.
There's people, they're not going to let you get up out of there without answering some real questions.
Yeah, if it's a good podcast.
Yeah.
Comedians are not.
Yeah.
And, you can't frame them dudes as right wing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't.
But here's my issue, though, is that, okay, that happened. But now you got to kind of walk back. How can you trust him?
Yep. Because
the guy, now you're saying one thing, but then in front of people, you're like a whole different person.
You're right.
In terms of how you're coming at.
That's a great point, Jake.
But that's why I like this, because I think that's what people are going to take away from this.
Yeah.
So you are going to play your partisan team side no matter what they do to you. You have to get on board and fall in line. Okay, so I can't trust you either.
Yeah.
Right. And we talked about this before, that's going to be the thing, is that if they're going to go on these podcasts, the problem is they're going to have to answer these hard questions.
Yes.
And so they're so obvious that it's like you can't weasel out. It's so obvious.
Yeah.
So it's like you're either going to look really, really dumb, or you just got to suck it up and just take the L, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is when you take the L, now you put into question everything you did before.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and people watching this, and some people knew. I mean, we knew that Bernie ran out.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? But they played that same game against Tulsi.
Yeah.
And they played that same game
RFK.
against RFK. But where are they?
They they said, okay, we don't want no parts of this anymore, and they went and joined up with Trump.
And that shows what? Character,
absolutely.
What are they saying about that guy? Maybe that's...
They were telling him, like, yo, it broke my heart to see you support them after they did that to you.
Yeah.
You know? And what was his answer? I had to make a choice.
Yeah. You didn't stand up for...
Yeah.
You didn't stand up for the people because they didn't choose.
Yeah.
You know? Like what?
And people would rather see...
I wish they would have pushed back a little bit more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like...
I haven't watched that whole interview, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I just seen
I didn't watch it either.
Yeah. But I see what you're saying. Like, hold his feet to the fire a little bit more about that issue.
Because, like, do you really care about the people?
Yeah.
Because they're not really picking who they want as their leader.
Right.
They're like not Bernie was hot.
Bernie was going to win.
Bernie was on fire.
They sabotaged him, especially, Mom, where'd Jake go? We lost Jake? Okay. Maybe
Feel
his
the
phone
burn.
died or something. Yeah. Feel the burn. Right when I was about to bring the Wes Huff interview up. You can take it down, Mom. He's not on there. Yeah. So, but then moving on to their interview with Wes Huff, who, if you guys aren't familiar with Wes Huff, he is the guy that we were talking about earlier, exposed Billy Carson, who has been this guy who went on Joe Rogan, went on Flagrant a while ago, multiple podcasts, with all these theories of like these ancient texts and how the Bible was a copy of other manuscripts, and Jesus really was an alien or something like
Anunnaki.
that. Yeah, and all that. He had all these wild theories, and he's been making the rounds on all these podcasts. But he got exposed by this guy Wes Huff, who is a biblical historian, like an expert. Jake is back, Mom. You can pull him back up. So
a real expert.
He's a real expert on the matter, and he got exposed by him on a separate stream, which kind of blew Wes Huff up. All these people wanted to talk to him, and he ended up going on Joe Rogan right after that, which blew him up even further. So I guess Flagrant was like, well, since he was able to, you know, go on Rogan and talk about the Billy Carson thing, and we had Billy Carson on, we got to have him on too. And the interesting thing about this conversation with Flagrant was, again, you got a Hindu who has trauma from Christians because he grew up in Texas and has a lot of trauma from, you know, Southern Christians telling him he was going to hell his whole life.
Yeah.
You got
that's a clip I saw.
Yeah, you got Andrew Schultz, who father grew up Catholic, but he really didn't grow up practicing anything. You know, just felt like he's always been a good person. You got Alex Media, who is an agnostic kind of wild guy. And then you got Mark Gagnon, who is grew up Catholic. He's probably the most religious of the bunch. And they gave a lot of pushback to Wes. They were asking him all the tough questions that Christians tend to ask, you know, anyone in a seat of like authority in the Christian realm. And I think a lot of people don't want to be challenged with these questions because they're not easy to answer. Mm-hmm. So I just want to set that up so we can play some of these. I have
we got Jordan on.
Jordan Damiani.
You want me to read his comment?
Yeah, read it.
He said, when your whole persona is crafted, long-form podcasts give an opportunity for that to be exposed. If you're being authentic, you don't have to worry about these free-form interviews.
That's absolutely true. Yeah. You don't have to continue lying if you're telling the truth, right?
Yeah.
You have to keep up the lie. All right, so let's play. I marked some of these off because I didn't have time to like edit all the clips together like you be doing, Jake. So I just marked them off timestamp wise. So we'll kind of watch a little bit and then move on.
Okay, Shifty. We were talking about translations and mistranslations.
Yeah.
And I've heard a lot of people say that gay marriage and gay relations are just mistranslations of the verses, like Romans, the ones in the Old Testament. Do you think they're mistranslations and the Bible is saying that they don't ever just talk about gay marriage or gay relations in general? Or do you think that they're mistranslations?
Yes, the accusation is usually that the word homosexuality it gets incorporated into the Bible in like the modern era. So the words in Hebrew in the Old Testament Leviticus, Paul, particularly in 1 Corinthians 7, plays off of what the Greek translation of the Old Testament has and uses this word arsinokoites, which literally means to like to lie down, a man with a man. And so I think it's not a mistranslation because the concept is there. Like what it's talking about is not obscure. It might be controversial, but it's not obscure in the Hebrew and Greek. The accusation is usually that it's not talking about like same-sex sex. It's talking about something like men sleeping with boys or temple prostitution. I don't think you can really rationalize.
We've seen that argument from a lot of the woke pastors or the homosexual pastors that we've played on the podcast, trying to make the argument of why homosexuality is not really in the Bible. So that's why they're bringing this up to him, because they've probably seen some of that content as well, or heard these arguments from a lot of their liberal friends who, or, you know, the more accepting of the LGBTQ friends that want to know, well, is that technically in the Bible? And, you know, that people will find ways to make loopholes around anything. So he's kind of like showing that if you look at the translation, especially in the Greek, that even the concept of a man laying with a man is in there. So there's no way, there's no wiggle room around that, which is interesting. Because that's the beauty of having someone who is like really well learned. He can break it down from the different translations. He knows which manuscript came from where. So there's more of, you get more of a sense of an understanding. I'll play a little bit more of this.
There's a guy named Robert Gagnon. That's your last name. Yeah. Robert Gagnon. So do you say Gagnon?
Yeah, these people don't understand. Wait, hold on. Is this guy about to justify homosexuality?
No. So Robert Gagnon is a scholar. He did his dissertation. He taught at Princeton for a while on this, like the linguistic and cultural context of homosexuality in the Bible. So his is kind of like the volume. So he goes through all this stuff. Why are you laughing at that? He talks about.
Because Mark comes from a long line of people.
Long line of croissants. We just call them croissants.
Yeah, we just call them croissants.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So he's a croissant historian, and then what did he find out?
Well, these concepts are like if you went back to Moses and you had two dudes and said we want to get married, Moses is
like for what?
What
he would say for what?
Yeah. Well, that wouldn't be. He'd be like, that's not what marriage is. Yeah. So it's not like. It's just because the word homosexuality exists now in English doesn't mean that the concept isn't there
back in the day
within the Bible. Yeah.
So in the Bible, it was frowned upon, even like whatever translation, whatever contextually. Okay.
Yeah.
Enjoy free ship.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, that's the concept of that clip there. That just because the word homosexuality didn't exist back then, the lexicon didn't exist. Yeah. There's no translation of that word. It doesn't mean that the concept was not, talked about in the Bible.
Homosexuality, the word didn't exist till the late 1800s, I believe.
Right.
So, like that was.
But the action.
Wasn't it introduced by like modern psychologists?
Yeah, and it was literally to bring in an identity.
Right. Well, I think it was Freud. Wasn't it Freud who started all that?
I don't know. But it was definitely to bring an identity to it.
Yeah. So then they go on to ask him about some of the pagan myths about like Easter, Christmas, all the things that we kind of discuss. Like were all of these things taken from paganism? Let's watch this part real quick.
Regularly aware of going to anyways. But the assimilation of pagan practices, that's a myth.
How do we get the eggs in Easter?
That's a Middle Age thing because eggs were associated with both new life and spring in Europe. It's a European thing.
Christmas. How do we get Santa?
Santa is like a combination of St. Nicholas, who's a 4th century bishop, and Sinterklaas in Germany. I think it's a New York thing. I think eventually the Dutch in New York.
That's fire. Good for y'all.
You're gonna take credit for that one?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he should. He should. Yeah. Him and him.
and so we like all comes together.
So this doesn't exist prior.
What?
The celebration of Christmas.
Oh no, so Christmas goes really old. Yeah. So there's a guy named Julius Africanus in the 2nd century who's preoccupied with figuring out how old everything is, and how he gives us the date for the creation of the world, and then he like adds up. So part of what he's doing is he's a Christian, and he's like, when was Jesus born? So he looked at a bunch of different things, and he reckons that he's figured out when Jesus was when Mary got pregnant, and then counts 9 months and gets to December 25th, and so that's. It's 24th or 25th. Why did I blank?
25th.
I was right.
Oh, you know why?
I just ran with it. Why?
When do the true Christians celebrate it?
January 6th.
Damn it.
He's making a joke about Orthodox Christianity. He's been I think he went to Turkey or something, and like got taught about Orthodox Christianity. So the whole time that during the interview, he keeps like referencing that as them being the true Christians, just messing with him.
What's going on? So the Orthodox do it on January 6th. But it's the same date. We just use different calendars. That's why. You guys stuck with the old calendar. We went to the new calendar. It's the exact same date. Our calendars changed.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
What about Halloween?
Halloween is All Hallows Eve, and the like pagan stuff appears to.
Only thing I was disappointed with, he didn't bring up the fact that Coca-Cola actually invented Santa Claus and Christmas. We showed that on the podcast a long time ago. Like, Coca-Cola invented Santa Claus.
Have been entirely invented by commercialization.
So you're saying there's no pagan influence on Christianity?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like the accusations of Christmas is pagan, Easter is pagan, like that's nonsense.
What about the accusations that like even the Jesus story was taken from other myths and other religions? I think like the Egyptian god Ra or something like that. Like what do you say about this? Is it just like a common occurrence? Like how do you feel? Is it bullshit?
Yes.
Really?
Well,
talk that shit.
It's Jesus mythicism, and no historian, like even the people who doubt that Jesus exists, don't use that argument because usually historians are aware of the primary sources. And if you look at the stories of like Horus, Ra, Mithras, Attis, if you look at the details and then try to find the parallels, they're just not there. It was made up by largely and popularized by the
Dan Brown?
the movie Zeitgeist, like a YouTube thing.
Yeah.
It's made up from thin air. So if you look at the actual stories of like Horus, Ra, the accusations of virgin births and 12 disciples, and you won't find them in those things. You won't.
Really? And isn't there connectivity to some Indian?
I think the story of baby Krishna, I think there's some connectivity in that. I think he tried the king tried to kill him, like couldn't do it.
So it's not that there aren't parallels that you can make. It's that like if you look at the actual core of the details. So there's a fallacy called the Texas sharpshooter fallacy, where it's this idea that the Texan is shooting the side of a barn and he then finds the closest cluster of shots and he paints a target around it, making himself look like a great shot, right? So if you want to find parallels, you can find them.
And then you make the accusation afterwards.
Yeah, so
that makes sense.
Let me see if I can give you an example. So John F. Kennedy and Abraham Lincoln were both, the presidencies were exactly 100 years apart. And Abraham Lincoln had an assistant by the name of Kennedy, and Kennedy had an assistant by the name of Lincoln. Both were assassinated by a man who went by three names, right? John Wilkes Booth and Lee Harvey Oswald. Kennedy was assassinated in a Lincoln. And Lincoln was assassinated in the Ford Theater. So, like, if you want to go down the rabbit trail trying to find all these things, you could argue that John F. Kennedy never existed. He was just a copy of Lincoln. And
that's
the great one is that before Lincoln died, he was in Monroe, Maryland, and before JFK died,
he was in
Marilyn Monroe.
Okay. Yeah. So
stupid.
So he goes on to debunk all of those myths. You see, Akash had the Hindu myth ready to go.
Yeah, Krishna. Baby Krishna.
But yeah, so they asked him about that. Those are like the lighthearted ones. Let me see where we get to here, because it gets kind of deep eventually, especially with like Andrew Schultz trying to make sense of, and he admits this at the end of the podcast. He's like, I realize that a lot of what I'm asking you is out of selfishness, because I'm like, I feel like I'm a good person and I want to frame things like I could get into heaven because of what I do, and hoping that there's room for me, even though I don't say I'm a Christian. You know what I mean?
It's not through works.
Right, exactly. So let's play some of this.
If you're non-Christian, can you get into heaven?
Important question. What do you mean by non-Christian?
I mean, if you just don't, him, I'm agnostic.
So I would say God is not going to force anyone into heaven. In that, heaven, once again, remember, heaven is not the final destination.
Soft no.
It's the new earth.
Soft no, right?
So essentially, no one comes to the Father but through me, Jesus says, right? But C.S. Lewis, once again, he says that hell is locked from the inside. So I would say that if you have spent your life not living out a life that is what Jesus has called you to be, then Jesus is not going to force you into his presence. You're going to go. So Lewis also says heaven is hell is God saying, thy will be done. So what you want in your life by rejecting Christ is what you're going to get in the afterlife.
Right. You have no desire to be with God, to have a relationship with God. So he gives you your desire at the end of the day, which is complete absence of his presence. That's what a lot of people believe hell is, just the absence of the presence of God completely. Like, and that despair, that type, because the modern concepts, he even talks about this in this, the modern concept like Dante's Inferno and like this idea of what hell is, those are all modern concepts. They're not biblical. Like there isn't a strong description of hell in that way in the Bible. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jake.
Sorry. Yeah, I mean, the way hell is, we talk about hell is a little different. You know? Sheol is the word.
Right.
in the Bible.
That comes from Judaism.
The Hebrew word,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little different. I don't know. I don't want to get too.
Okay.
Nobody wants hell. Well, you just accept, and maybe, and I guess Hindus accept Jesus as, I read like a yogi,
sure,
essentially, but maybe not the only form of God. And theoretically, I think it aligns with Christianity in some ways, if God is everywhere, we could all be God. Jesus is a human that he achieved his inner God. So
that would be the Hindu way of working it out,
right? But then we accept Jesus. And
but even Hinduism is exclusivistic in certain regards. So like, no one is entirely inclusivistic, right? The exclusivists have to exclude the inclusivists, and the inclusivists have to exclude.
How would we? And I'm not. Look, I don't know enough. So how are we exclusivists?
Right. So depending on what version of Hinduism you're talking about, because there's polytheistic Hinduism, there's monotheistic Hinduism, and there's atheistic or non-theistic Hinduism.
Yeah, you could
right?
be atheist Hindu. Yeah.
So they can't all be true. So truth by its very nature is exclusive, right? If I say 2 + 2 is 4, well, I'll give Andrew the benefit of the doubt. Andrew says 2 + 2 is 4. I say 2 + 2 is 6. One of us is wrong. Now, we could both be wrong, but the truth is that 2 + 2 is 4. He's right. And so in that sense, that's an exclusive truth statement. So if you look at all the world religions, I would ultimately say they're all exclusivistic at some regard. I say Jesus is...
exclusivistic in the most important regard.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I would say Christianity is inclusivistic in that all are called to come.
Yeah.
But it is exclusivistic in that Jesus loves you and calls you to come as you are, but he loves you too much to leave you where you are. And so it's unconditional, but it's not unconditioned, because all you have to do is give up your life and follow Jesus.
I think conditioned is conditional.
Yeah.
They're putting a condition on it. Like, that was a very poetic thing you said, but it doesn't actually mean anything.
Well, it does in the sense that when I say it's unconditional, it's that Jesus...
The whole time, Akash is the most combative because he just like, he can't stand Christianity.
Says all are welcome to come. But there is a condition. Yeah. There is, right? It's not nothing.
Yeah.
And in that sense, God is either, right, the universe in like an Eastern mystic kind of idea, or God is a personal being. They can't both be true. So I think all world religions have these like superficial agreements, but they disagree on the fundamentals, right? Who God is, who we are, why we're here, what sin is, what the afterlife is like, how we solve the problem of human flourishing. But all these things are important topics, but Advil and arsenic both come in pill form. But it's not the similarities that make you choose one over the other when you have a headache, it's the differences. So as someone who has studied world religions, I would say that there is no such thing as a religion that accepts everything. Because even if I say Jesus is God incarnate and there's only one God, he's not just a guru, and his teachings actually don't give you reason to just chop him up to a guru, then that's excluding the worldview system of something like Hinduism or Buddhism, which would also include that.
Yeah, I guess the difference would be we would say that's fine. Yeah. Like in Hinduism, that's okay. You believe what you believe. God bless. There are many ways to the mountaintop. If that way gets you to the mountaintop, amazing. We're thrilled for you.
Yeah, and I would say there's only one way to the mountaintop.
Yeah, and that is a fairly big difference.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that, Jake?
Hinduism is a lie.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't even think he really believes it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. I don't know. Let's just keep going.
All right.
Karma. No.
Yes. No. You know this idea, like, I think that we have a skewed understanding.
Drink this?
Yeah, sure. I think we have a skewed understanding of karma, and Akash can speak to it more, but this idea, like, it's transactional. I do a bad thing and then something bad happens to me later. But it might be a little bit something more like you live within your karma. Doing bad things makes you feel bad about yourself, and then you exist within this badness, right? You just feel horrible because of these bad things that you've done. And you could maybe say the same is true about Christianity. Living this Christ-like life makes you feel good, makes you I'm not saying you're not having heaven on earth, but that following this way not only gives you eternal salvation, but also makes your life better while you are here. Would you say that that would be true for most Christians, that aspiring to live a Christ-like life will actually make you feel better than a life of sin?
Oh, of course.
Okay, so just so
there's a pragmatism to it. I think
I'm not trying to pin
you so far.
I'm not trying to pin you to anything. I swear to God, I'm not.
No, I get what you're saying, and I do think there's truth to that. In that, like, I want Canada, the U.S., wherever, I want laws to be based on Christian things because I think that's actually good for society
and just for people in general.
But I don't want then those to become a means to an end. Like, don't make the laws based on the Bible because people should be doing good things. Actually, a friend of mine, Andy Bannister, who runs an organization out in Scotland called SOLAS, he did this debate. It was him. It was the head of the secular society, and it was a Muslim imam. And the topic of the discussion was what makes the flourishing society, or what makes a good society. And the secular materialist guy and the Muslim basically argued for the same thing. We need to enact more rules. We need to make sure people are following them. And my friend Andy, his point was, that's not going to work because everybody's going to try to find the loopholes in the rules, or they're going to just do it so that they don't get in trouble.
Isn't that what people do? I mean, even when you look at, like, I always see those videos of, and I find them so hilarious. I'm not to offend anybody, but the Jewish people on the Sabbath, like,
Yeah, they find
so many ways to get around, so they can still do stuff that they want to do without breaking the rules.
Like the Mormon kids, they do everything. What's it called? The sex thing that they do, but it's not.
Was that soaking?
Soaking.
Yeah,
I think that's what it is.
Yeah,
they're not really having sex, but they're pleasuring.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, it's people are gonna find loopholes. If you just give them rules, they're gonna find loopholes.
But God looks at the heart.
Yes.
Your heart is not your heart is not right.
Right.
You're trying to find. You're not really breaking the rules, but your heart's not for God.
And that's what we were talking about last night. I think it was when I was saying, like, you can see that by how Jesus approached people when they would talk about, but I'm following the rules. I follow the commandments, and he broke them down to a place where it was like, no, because even if you think this thing, or even if you look at someone in this way, like, you're still committing that sin.
Yep.
So
the rules are there to show you that you can't follow the rules.
Right.
The rules are there to show you,
to humble you.
Yeah, he says, I think Andrew says, realizing I'm a piece of
ish,
right,
crap. Yeah, like he says that. Do you have that clip or no?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, yeah. So he kind of goes into that, and that I think, and the reason why I didn't want to jump in earlier is because I think it kind of shows where everybody is at and why it's hard to understand Christianity for unbelievers.
Right.
Right. That's what I kind of want to get to, because the struggle with Andrew, the struggle with Akash, the struggle, like the anger in it, the mocking in it. There's a reason for that. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think, the more they talk, they kind of reveal it.
Right. All right, let's keep playing.
And so the more rules you put in, the more people are going to try to get around them for one reason or the other.
Like taxes.
Only way, taxes.
Like taxes.
Oh, taxes.
Yeah. Make any tax law you want, we're going to find a loophole.
Sure. Yeah. And so it's not about rules. It's about changing people's hearts. They should want to do the good thing.
I'm not suggesting
it's the good thing.
I'm not suggesting that we establish these rules and that's how society should function. What I am suggesting is what you're saying is that, like, by living this life, you will feel better and ultimately have a more fulfilling life, right? And while you, a devout Christian, might say, yeah, that might be the case, like, while you're here, but you're not going to get that eternal salvation. But to those people who maybe they're not believers, subscribing to the behavioral mechanisms, not for eternal salvation, for happiness while on earth, they do get to attain some of that.
I think, it's not an either or. It's not just about the afterlife or just about this life. It's a both and. Your will be done on earth as is in heaven.
Yeah.
Right? So that's the Lord's.
Well, you get it now. I think that the people who take the Bible for metaphor, who you would call retards, not retards. Sorry, you would call idiots. Sorry, you would call idiots. But those people who take it as
find a more Canadian way of saying it.
Yeah, like that. What's a good one?
Fools.
Fools. Hockey pucks.
Posers.
Yeah. But those that take it as metaphor, but still see, like, immense value in it, and living this quote unquote, I wouldn't say Christian life, but Christian inspired life. Yeah. They, like many people, for example, who grow up like Catholic. Like my dad grew up Catholic, right? Not religious, but.
Is he proud to be now the Orthodox?
He's very proud. Yeah. No. But not religious. As he had some kind of like kind of falling out with the church, not on like some pedophile shit, but just like he just didn't continue to.
Anyway, couple words in my mouth.
Everybody put something in their mouth. Yeah. But
even this guy.
But like I don't know a person that is. I don't know somebody that doesn't lead a more Christian life. If you asked him, he's like, I'm just being a nice guy. I'm trying to help people when I can. Like he is. So he still finds this immense value. Yeah. In this belief system without the belief. Yeah. Now the cost could be eternal salvation, which fucking sucks. But while you're here on earth, it seems to have really helped him.
Sure.
So I'm just curious how you reconcile that. Like, okay, there are these people out there that are leading these quote unquote Christian lives, but they're maybe not believing some of the things that you've said. So maybe they're not leading a Christian life, but they're following. As a matter of fact, they might be leading better lives than some of these Christians who do believe all these things. Yeah. So which one does God value more? Does God value the Christian who's like, I'm a sinner, I am a piece of shit, I believe that God is my savior, I'm going to keep on doing all this fuck shit, but I am a piece of shit, that's why I'm doing it. But God died for my sins, but I'm going to try. But he's a piece of shit his entire life and he hurts people. Or do you think God is more favorable to the person who goes, I don't know if I really believe it, but I really like being nice to people and kind and trying to help my neighbor and trying to help anybody I can and trying to be a positive force on the world?
Well, I think
you see, these are tough questions.
Good questions.
Like, it's not an easy conversation.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people would be willing to would be able to handle this.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
At the end of the day, it's still like you're in Adam or you're in Christ. And so, like, this is what I said when I was on Rogan and I was commenting on Jordan Peterson is like, we need to be careful that the law, the doing good things, is the mirror. Don't try to clean yourself with the mirror. The mirror shows you how dirty you are, right?
That's what you were saying, Jake. The law is there to show you that you can't do it. It's there to humble you. So if you're sitting there thinking that I'm living my life, I'm a good person, you're not ever being humbled because you don't have that law there as a standard. You don't have Jesus. You don't have Jesus as your standard. Once you get to know who Christ is, that becomes your standard. Then then you're humbled because I could never be what he is.
Right. Yeah. But that's where the faith comes in, right?
Right. And the works also to always try and strive to be more like him.
Well, the works are not. So that's kind of what I wanted to get into. Like, so Jordan said something, which was talking about when we talked about homosexuality earlier.
Yeah.
He said, and I brought up the word as using it as an identity. He said modern psychology did a lot of switching actions and behaviors into identities. So we love to look at what people do. Like, how do we judge people? Oh, we judge them off of what they do.
Yeah.
That's not how God judges us. He judges us from our hearts. We don't know. People can do things from their intentions. I mean, we do everything from our intentions, and I think that's what they're missing. So how can we do it from the intention of God if we don't know God?
Right.
It's just basic. Like, a child will mimic the father, his dad, right? But the child has to learn the reasons and the meaning or the spirit behind why the father does what he does.
Yeah.
And then the child starts. Now the father can give that child responsibility and share in the responsibilities that the father has, right? As he grows in understanding that. That's what it is with God. Like, so I think we have it backwards. The world looks at doing and says, oh, this is who you are. But God, he causes us to be, we go with God in terms of believing who he says we are. And eventually we start to do it. And that doing has the essence of the spirit of where it comes from through faith, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the backwards, it's the inversion of how we judge in the world. That's why, like, when you say things like, judge not lest you be judged, because Jesus is speaking that because we don't understand that we see things inverted. There's another scripture, Proverbs says, that man does what's right in his own eyes, right? What seems right in his own eyes. But the thing is, it leads to destruction.
Yeah.
Right? So, because everything we do, so how can we judge what's good when good comes from God?
Yeah.
So we only know good as we know God, right?
Right.
Taste and see that the Lord is good. And what's the most famous verse of the Bible that people quote?
For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. I don't know. John 3:16.
Yeah, John 3:16.
Yeah.
Good job, Jamie.
That he gave his only begotten son, that whoever believes in him shall have eternal life. So, and then after that, it says that those who believe in him are not condemned. So what is our identity without Christ? Condemned. We're condemned.
Right.
So we act out of that identity. So you think perfect love casts out fear, and fear comes with condemnation, judgment. See what I mean? So we act out of the judgment that's on us that we don't even know we're in.
Yeah.
But we're in it, right? So that's our identity, and everything follows from that. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then see how love casts out our fear. So God so loved the world that he gave his son, right? And then we have eternal life. And then in John 17, it says, and this is eternal life, that they know you, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom you have sent. See, that's eternal life.
Yeah.
So eternal life isn't just like, oh, we get eternal life. No, it's the more we know God. And how do we know God? Well, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and those who practice it have good understanding, or we begin to know God.
Yeah.
right? So now, the more we know, we trust God, because to believe is to trust God. So the more so when they're saying like, yeah, you believe in God, but you're a piece of shit. Those two things don't go together,
Right.
right? As you continue to trust. Now, can you trust God and still be a piece of crap? Yeah, because your behaviors haven't changed.
Yeah.
Because you haven't trusted in the nature that has become new. That's through faith. See, you got to trust God that He's created you new, but as you trust Him and fear God in every situation, well, what does that mean? The way you acted before in the situations that where you acted, you're convicted for it now. Like, oh man, I shouldn't have did that. But you don't have any strength out of yourself to change that, right? So the only way you're convicted of it, but the only way you can change it is to go to God and allow Him to empower you through His grace. So we're saved by grace through faith, right?
Yeah.
For good works. That's the last part.
Yeah.
So we have to first we have to accept His grace. So think about this. How many religious people they feel convicted and then they go try to fix it themselves?
Right.
That's out of your own strength. That's out of your own power. That's out of your own ability, right? And then you wonder why you never change.
Jordan said it's a relationship, exactly.
Yeah. That's what we're talking about. Relationship is, again, if you go back to the father and son thing, the father, us as fathers, we're all fathers here. We love our kids. If our kids trust us, everything that we say, they're not going to get it all. But Daddy, you said this. Yeah, but that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
This is what I mean. And the more they come back and trust us, it's not like we're afraid they're not going to get it. No, they're going to get it. They're going to get it as long as they trust us. And the more you guys good?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought I heard Mom in the background.
No.
The more we
maybe that was Mom yawning over there. She's tired.
The more we trust in our Father, right, the more we come into what He has for us.
Yeah.
If I don't trust Him, I'm gonna bring up everything why it doesn't work. I don't believe Him. Yeah, but Dad, it's too hard. I can't do it. So you won't continue. You'll quit.
Right.
But I suck. If you say, "Oh, I suck," okay, well you have what you say. Yeah, I'm an asshole. I'm a what do you say? I'm a
piece of shit.
I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah.
When you say these things and you accept that for your life, you're accepting that as your identity. You're not accepting who God says you are, so that you're not moving through faith. You won't ever change because you're accepting and letting that old nature stay alive.
Yeah.
But we have to let that old nature die by denying ourselves, by denying how we feel about ourselves, and also denying how we feel about others.
Yeah.
Let it die. Let it die.
Yeah.
And that's hard for people to understand that, at first, like that's how you judge everything.
Yeah.
Think about it. That's how we judge. We judge out of that old nature. And that's why we can be so cynical.
But I definitely suggest everybody watch the whole podcast. There's so much good stuff in there. I don't want to keep playing a lot of it. It's more of that. That topic goes on for a while because they keep hashing through that but if you're a good person thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because even Akash, he struggles with that. So I could do. So they're saying because there's a point where Andrew talks about the disciples and even they didn't believe in Jesus and they were there with him. So you think God would hold it against someone who I didn't experience Jesus. I didn't live with Jesus, but so I'm supposed to believe more than the disciples believe? They go into this whole thing and he's answering all these questions. They're tough questions.
Yeah.
Akash is so I can live a good life, but if I don't say that Jesus is my savior, then I'm the same as someone who's a pedophile or a murderer.
It's a good question.
And he's like, but if a murderer or a pedophile just says Jesus, then they can get in heaven, but I can't, so these are all it's a good interview to watch. It's a little bit over 3 hours long, so it's a long one.
Wow.
And they talked to him for a while about everything they could think of. And he, at the end of it, he goes like, I wish I had 2 more hours with you. Like,
wow.
They wanted to keep going, but Wes Huff had to get on the plane.
So I'll say, like, over and over again, you see, though, they go back to the good person. They go back to what people are doing. They equate that to that. But good is not based off of what you do. It's based off of who you are.
Yeah.
Like, we're good because God is good, right? We love because God first loved us. You could see the total opposite of that. You know what I mean? Like, I'm talking about, what we do.
Yeah.
And then people could be like, oh, look at you. But that's not who we really are. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, but we grow into who we are through faith. And then you start to see what we do because of who we are eventually, but it's only comes through faith. So, and that's why people can, you're supposed to be a Christian and you're doing this, and this.
Yeah. Aren't you supposed to be a Christian?
Right.
People say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Jordan said, he also said, behaving in the similar way as my wife, one of my friends doesn't make you my spouse. One of my friends, to Schultz's point, behavior does not equal identity in that sense either.
Yeah, that's true. You can behave as one of my children, but you don't become one of my children until you get brought into the family. Until you accept the head of the family, right? It's just, or you don't get brought into the kingdom unless you accept who the king is.
Yes.
You can behave just as the kingdom does, but you don't get brought in. All right, I'm gonna show one more clip from the podcast because this is gonna lead into what you sent me, Jake. This is him talking about Islam.
That's what John says in 1 John. God is love. And so God does not need to create in order to experience anything. Creation is an outpouring of his love. Now, this is different.
I keep forgetting to push that. I'll play this one more time.
John says in 1 John, God is love. And so God does not need to create in order to experience anything. Creation is an outpouring of his love. Now, this is different than, say, a Unitarian monotheistic faith like Islam. In Islam, in one sense, philosophically, God does need to create to experience love, because love requires an object and a subject. And so, in order to feel love, the Unitarian God of something like Islam needs the subject, right, and the object in order to feel that. That's not true for Christianity. Because the Spirit and the Father has been loving the Son in the power of the Holy Spirit forever. Yet, he chooses to create as an outpouring of his love, knowing full well that the creation will rebel against him because God loves us. That's what John...
Yeah. So that was him showing the difference between Christianity and Islam. I thought that was interesting. And now we're going to get into what you sent me, which was, do you want to... You want to set this up, Jake? It's a bunch of Instagram clips, so I got to get them ready to go. You're muted.
Sorry. I knew you were going to be like, it's Instagram.
Dude, I hate... They're so hard to deal with on the stream.
Yeah, but those were where I found a lot of this stuff at.
Okay.
So just to show, how in Europe, the acceptance of Islam and / immigration in any way, just accepting whatever, because this is what happens when we accept these Marxist ideas.
So This is showing a school. It says some schools in the Netherlands and other European countries take Christian children to mosques to learn about Islam. Would you send your children there?
Yeah.
And they're having them pray.
Yeah.
Or whatever they're doing.
But I wanted to say something about Islam before we started.
Go ahead.
So this is just, again, it's a continuation of what we talked about, because the flesh judges off of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at Islam, it's a prime example of this, right? There is what is sin? Sin is missing the mark. Or you could say missing the point.
Yeah.
Right? So sin has to do with you didn't get it. Right? But just what I was saying. But Daddy, you didn't get it though. You didn't understand what I meant. That's sin. So and God is sanctifying us and cleansing us of sin through our faith, right? As we trust him more and more. And then we are able to do good works. But when you can see good works and try to do good works, but it is void of the nature of God, it's dirty because our minds are dirty, right? So then you just start to judge it based off of like what you see. And this is what Islam is. And like he said, Islam is one, it's God, but it's they say he's one God, right? He doesn't have partners, is what Islam always says.
Unitarian
but again,
is what he used.
Yeah, you can't when you have it that way. It's Trinitarian in terms of God shares his love with himself. In terms of persons, it's three persons, right? One being, three persons. But with Islam, he needs the critique with Islam is he needs creation, right? You can't. Nothing happens without creation for Allah, right?
Yeah.
So there's no relationship in Islam. There is servitude and slavery, and that is connected right back to doing. See what I mean? It's connected right back to what we do. So what I'm saying is, I'm trying to show you how they might perceive things in terms of their worldview,
right?
And why it's so separate from ours. Because what Andrew was talking about, because they were talking about a lot of the shadows of Christianity.
Yeah.
Right. So, or you could say, it's not believers, but it is an offset of believers. It's what you see from believers, and then you try to do the same thing. Right. But it misses the spirit of it. Right. So then you don't understand it. So, and we have a lot of that in Western civilization. Right. But then when you don't have the essence of it, things like Marxism comes in and love gets perverted. The ideas that are from God get perverted because you're lacking the essence or the meaning of it. Right. So now these things are getting perverted, and then here comes the devil, and Islam will come in and take advantage of that. And that's what's been happening all over the world. So, and it's hard for people to understand that because they think, oh, well, we're loving, we're being accepting of people, right? But it's a perversion.
All right, let's get into some of these clips now. So we had that one with the kids in the school, and then you sent me this one. Pull it up.
Are you here to pray for the lives of unborn children?
As I've mentioned to one of your colleagues before, I think that's a little bit of a leading question. No, I'm not, actually, today.
Can your actions be carried out elsewhere?
I'm not doing any actions. I'm just simply thinking silently in my head.
Okay, and why have you chosen this location to stand?
This is an abortion centre. I'm praying for those who've been hurt by abortion.
So, when I said before, are you here to pray for the lives of unborn children?
Yes.
So, yes.
I said no.
You said no.
I'm praying for those who've been hurt by abortion.
Hurt by abortion?
Yes, that's right.
Okay. So are you aware there's a public space protection order in place here?
Yes, I don't know if you know, but I have actually been arrested twice. I've gone to court and been acquitted for allegedly my silent prayers. I've actually received an email from the police telling me I'm allowed to be in this area. I don't know if you're familiar with that situation at all.
This is exclusion area?
Yes, that's right. That's why I was arrested previously. So yes, I'm very much aware there's a PSPO in place.
Okay. And are you aware that you are breaching the public order protection order in place?
I'm not breaching it, no.
Will you move from here to outside of the exclusion zone?
I don't see any reason why I would need to do that for the reasons I've just explained to you.
Okay. So if not, why are you not willing to move outside of the exclusion zone?
Because of what
Okay, we get it. So she's being questioned by a police officer because she is praying silently in her head.
Yeah, and this is in England, obviously.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm just showing that. I just wanted to show that because you see all the tolerance for Islam, but then they're like,
there's no tolerance
where this
for
stuff,
Christians.
Yeah, where this stuff comes from, but has been forgotten, right?
Yeah.
To love people, but then it becomes perverted. Now it turns against the very place where it comes from, right? So now everybody who looks like that, like you can't even pray in your head. Bro.
Yeah. Not bothering anybody. Just standing there, praying in your head silently.
Yeah. And I'm trying to look for something. Anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's all good. All right, the next video you sent me says no Christmas allowed in the UK.
So we've just come down to what is described as London's biggest Christmas market. The only problem is they've called it, if you follow me, they've called it a winter come together. So my challenge now is to find anywhere in this market that says the word Christmas, maybe the word Jesus, any indication that this is indeed a religious holiday in the UK. We've got winter warmers at the winter market. Is this a Christmas market?
It's a winter market.
A winter market? What's the difference?
Something to do with religion. They can't say Christmas, but...
So apparently the stall traders here have been told they can't say the word Christmas.
We were headed there. We were headed there in this country.
Yeah.
We were headed there. I remember, like, one of the things Trump said when he got elected was, Merry Christmas is back.
Yep.
You know?
That's crazy.
We were headed there.
This is why you have to stand for the truth.
Yeah.
You know?
You need good
and
leaders.
You have to... We have to stand for, we have to talk about these things, right? This is why the podcasts matter. This is why these things matter, where we can hash out ideas.
Yeah.
Where we can hash out the meaning of things and get to the meaning of the truth. If we don't have that, then we'll never get to it. And the flesh wants to shut that down.
Crazy. Check out this one right here he sent me. This is in the Netherlands. It says, Muslim immigrant doesn't eat pork, so he urinates on the pork at the grocery store. And I have seen a lot of videos like this of immigrants, like Muslim immigrants protesting about pork products being in places that they don't want them to be, feeling like that they should be accommodated in those ways.
But you move to a country where it's not your country.
Right.
You should be tolerant of the country that you moved to.
Yep.
But they allow stuff like this. Did he get in trouble for it?
Nope. Matter of fact, you're not even allowed to criticize them in the UK. Like, I know the UK, if you criticize Islam in any way, you can be arrested. All right, we got this next clip. Urinating on pork in the grocery store. All right.
It is more dangerous than Baghdad. You didn't mishear me. Scandinavia, a place known for happiness, universal healthcare, ABBA and IKEA, now has a place that is officially as bad as a war zone. To put it in perspective, they had 31 bombings last month, and they had a shooting every 28 hours during 2024. Last week, the Prime Minister just came out and admitted it and said, we have lost control of this wave of violence. What's mad is when I spoke to experts about what was behind this trend, they said a lot of the time the people orchestrating these crimes are actually based, ironically, in Iraq and Turkey. The explanation is simple. That reputation that Sweden had for being a friendly, welcoming place has been exploited ruthlessly by international criminal networks. They have exploited the immigration policies to turn the place into a really, really dangerous country. Sweden now officially has a city that is more dangerous.
Yeah, and I remember years ago, man, us showing the articles and the news stories about the no-go zones in Sweden.
Yeah,
Like it was when we were still in the other studio, and I remember people commenting on those videos like, "Oh, this is propaganda," blah blah blah. Like, nah.
Yeah, it's just worse and worse.
Yep.
Can't deny it anymore.
Yep. Now they're having crime. All right, let's check this next clip out. Try to refresh this.
Anytime they'll say, brother, we are living in the UK. You need to respect the law of the land. You don't respect all faiths. We don't respect the kufr and the shirk and the kuffar and the disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we give them dawah. That's why we implement the jizya. That's why we do jihad fi sabilillah. Said that, look, the Quran says so. The Quran says, obey the law of the land. We're still waiting for that verse where it says that. It don't exist. I'm sure you heard this many times. They'll say, brother, we are living in the UK. You need to respect the law of the land.
Yeah. So he's basically saying they don't have to.
Yeah, that's why they're pissing on
Yeah.
pork.
That's why they're beating people up. That's why they're, trying to implement Sharia law in different places. Yeah. So he's saying that the Quran doesn't say that.
Yeah, the Bible does.
Yeah, the Bible does. All right, next one.
From our religion that we have to hate them for the sake of Allah. Al-adawa, enmity and hatred, meaning we're enemies. Let's not beat around the bush. We don't love each other. We're not on the same page. We are not friends. Does that make sense? We are enemies.
The kuffar. We hate the kuffar for the sake of Allah. Because why? Because they disbelieve in Allah.
Loving the Muslims and hating the non-Muslims. Being loyal to the Muslims and not being loyal to the non-Muslims.
To keep fighting the Christians and Jews until they give jizya. So it's compelling them to give jizya. This shows you clearly that it's about forcing people to become Muslim.
It is
by force.
You guys know what jizya is?
No, I was going to ask you that. What is that?
It's when you implement Sharia law and you overcome your enemies. They have to pay tax to you. Jizya tax. So now you have to pay. Dude, it's like the mafia, like in terms of that. Like,
is that what you were talking about in Texas? Like these towns that have kind of been taken over, are they finding a way around that without?
Well, it's not exactly jizya, but it's that clip is in here.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll get to it then. All right, let's look at this next one.
Connection between the Palestinian students movement and the political prisoners. So the Palestinian student, the day after of Oslo, they changed their activism from the campus to the armed struggle. If Palestine is liberated, this means this is a nail to dismantle the United States of America.
We know it's a victory when a red triangle goes above an Israeli soldier's head and the pig gets iced. Like, we know that's a victory. We know.
Why is this dude wearing a mask doing his own video inside? Is that to cover his identity, or is he afraid of COVID?
I mean, they're using socialists. They're using
Marxist,
whatever.
Yeah.
They don't care because after they get power, like this is what they want. They just want power, right?
Yeah. And after they get it, this guy will be the first one to be killed.
Yeah. And this is in Temple.
Yeah, this is at Temple University. I saw that.
Yeah.
We know it's a victory when prisoners break out. We know it's a victory when all these things happen. But a lot of people don't necessarily know that. And it's not their fault they don't know that. It's our fault.
We will free Mumia because it is our job to destroy imperialism, destroy the United States, and destroy capitalism and the system of extraction that it...
Don't all y'all live in the United States? Like the chick in the back is snapping her fingers when he said that. Like, girl.
That's a U.S. thing.
But I'm just thinking, like, what are y'all talking about?
They don't get it, man. They don't know. That's the thing. They're coming to a country because Islam thinks that its job is to take over the world. How did Islam spread? Like, how did Christianity spread?
Well, some would say through the Crusades, though I know that is a fake story, but
Yeah, that's straight up.
Missionaries, for the most part.
How did it spread in the first 200 years?
Oh, just word of mouth. The disciples, the people that were martyred, just spreading the word of the gospel, going around, talking to people.
And how does that happen? Because it endured through love.
It's truth.
Yeah. But so it was a peaceful thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Islam spread by the sword.
Right. Conquering.
That's it. Like,
yeah.
Literally conquering.
Yeah.
The 200 years, Islam spread by if you think about the first 200 years and after that, Islam spread by the sword.
Mm.
So it's a totally different way. So what do they have? You know, obviously they can't do that at the present moment, but they're looking for ways to infiltrate.
Yeah.
Right. And this is what they want: Sharia law. They want these things implemented because that means that they want to rule.
Yeah.
They want Islam to rule, to prove. But again, this is why I said at the beginning, it's about what you do. If we are ruling, we are winning, right? If we're doing the thing, right? We're doing it. Like,
yeah.
We're proving ourselves. We're proving who we are. Right? This is why when you look at a lot of religions that are lacking spirit, you can hide a lot of things that people are doing that are very horrible. Like, I would say abusive, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sexual abuse, children getting abused, because they put honor over that, right? Or they don't want to be shamed, or they want to cover it up because they don't want people to look bad. You know, and that happens with Islam, that happens with Mormonism, that happens with Catholicism, right?
Yeah.
It happens with anywhere where people are putting forth and proving themselves or trying to show who they are, right? That's what the flesh is.
All right, let's keep going. Let's check out this
land. So like you said, brother, Masjid homes a total Muslim village. So we're still debating on the name, but it's going to be something Muslim name and a village attached to it, right? The names of the streets, Khalid ibn al-Walid, Tariq bin Ziyad, like all the great conquerors. Like, people need to Google those conquerors and know, like, what are we made of? Yeah, like,
Islamophobes, they're burning, bro.
Google Tariq bin Ziyad, you know? And then we want to have different sections, like Andalusia, this, that, like all our past glories, and we want to bring it back. The way what we're doing, brother, like, you cannot make it exclusive, like non-Muslims not allowed, kuffar not allowed. What we're doing, there's something called association fee. I don't know what it's called in Dubai. Like your maintenance fee that you pay yearly, to cutting the service fee, to cut the grass, to remove the snow and whatnot. So that service fee will put there 75% of the service fee you're paying goes to the masjid. Automatically, if you are a practicing Christian, I would advise you, why help the Muslims, you know? Let Muslims do their own thing, right? So this is the way we're going to put the clause. And our attorney already put it there. So we have, brother, think about it. Like, a guy comes from Bangladesh, have no idea about anything. Brother, we're putting an application now where we're selecting the names of the streets in the United States of America. We're putting the subdivision laws. Like, hey, this is the law. One of the laws being your yearly contribution, 75% of it goes to support the masjid that's going to be there. We're making these 279-acre land.
This is the guys in Texas you were talking about, right?
Yeah.
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 What's the masjid?
Is that the mosque?
Yeah, it's what's the ruling a mosque or authority. That, you know.
That's what I was talking about. I thought he was talking about like Sharia law when I watched this, because I've seen this video before.
Yeah.
Is it,
no,
is
it's
it,
not.
Is it a town that they're gonna, you know,
Yeah, he's talking about developing a whole town where
that's the law,
like
of
a
the
development.
land.
Yeah, and where the streets are named after Muslim conquerors and leaders,
yeah.
and then any Christians or any others, because they couldn't make an exclusive Muslim neighborhood, that wouldn't be allowed. But they can make it that anyone that lives there legally, the HOA fees or whatever ends up going to support them.
They're laughing about it.
They're laughing about it. They think it's so clever.
Yeah. Because it's pride, and it's a show of strength, right? And what you do.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
When you're able to implement Islam as Allah has revealed it.
You want to apply Allah's Sharia? Of course you want to apply Allah's Sharia.
Yeah.
The answer to that is yes. There's no ambiguity there.
Yeah.
How is that going to happen? And where are we right now? And what is the ideal you're aiming for? And how to get from point A to point B?
Yeah.
For us Muslims living in Western democracies, in the liberal secular democracies we find ourselves, we hope the world embraces Islam. We hope our lands embrace Islam and implement the Sharia of Allah. Yes, and I'll publicly say this. Jihad is a legitimate term. It's a noble term. We shouldn't be ashamed of it. Our Prophet ﷺ said, fight the pagans, fight the kuffar with your tongue, with your pens, and with your hands. They're Muslims living in Western secular democracies. We're talking about Europe, Canada, America, Australia, just the Western secular democracies. That's it. What is our goal as a community? What is our final result that we're aiming for when we're living here? Establish a khilafah where we live? Do we wish to turn America and England into Islamic republics and states? Or do we wish to convert the entire population? Our goal living amongst all of you is to wipe away your religion and to replace it with Islam.
It is an
He's telling you.
Yeah, they all tell you, man.
Yeah.
Like, you can't sit back and chill with this stuff.
Yeah. You can't be accepting and tolerant and inclusive when it comes to this. What is the kuffar?
I don't know exactly.
Oh, okay, because I hear them keep referencing that as well. Let's see what this is.
And in the West, especially after September 11, we are seen as a security threat to the empire. And the only way for us to prove our Americanism is to prove that we are loyal to the security forces of this government, of this country. We can't be loyal to that. If you are loyal to that, then I'm sorry, you're betraying your religion.
Number one enemy of Islam today is the ideology of capitalism.
Everything we represent goes in total contradiction to what the West represents. Because all of Islam is in opposition of secularism.
As Muslims in America and in the West, especially after
that they were going to replace the UK government and that there would be Sharia law in Britain. I mean, he told me that was their stated goal. Of course. And I said, but you know, the laws that give you the freedom to fight for this in this country, you know, that's what enables you to exist. And you're going to get rid of all of it. And he said, yeah. And I was like, he's like, well, why are you looking at me? He's like, you guys are the idiots. You let this happen. Even they recognized. Oh, sure. They know that they're exploiting your laws, your freedoms. They know they're exploiting it in order to obliterate it. And they fully recognize that we're slitting our own throats and they're laughing at us. Imam said to me that they were going to replace the UK government and that there would be Sharia law.
Yeah. Yeah. A couple more. Charlie Kirk.
Spread by two ways: through the importation of Muslims into your country, or the spread of lower income, predominantly minority men. Would you agree with that? And
yeah, the left love Islam and they will import Islam, and we see that in Australia and in London. One of the major people in the Department of Education in London, he's literally an imam and a mufti. He's literally an Islamic scholar and an imam who preaches. You will see Islam make its way into the left-wing politics. That's one of the reasons the borders were open the last 4 years. It was intentional about changing the character of this nation fundamentally. The way to destroy America will be Islam, and this is very obvious in UK. Half of Americans are left, half of Americans are right, give or take. The only way for leftism to win permanently is to import a group of people that fundamentally hates the American freedom. That happens to be Islam.
Islam will be spread by...
Yeah, they're going to exploit the left. They're going to exploit the Marxists, the communists, all the people that hate capitalism, and they're going to pretend to be on their side when Islam is against everything they stand for, LGBTQ, women's rights, everything that they think that, Ilhan Omar, for example, Rashida Tlaib, these people, they think that they are fighting for them. No. They're trying to fight for their people. Ilhan Omar has openly said many times that she is in this government for Somalia.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Jake's saying something.
Jake, you're muted, Jake.
When we accept this leftist ideology, what does it do? It makes us weak.
Yeah.
Right? It makes us weak because, number one, we're not going to have families. Right?
Right.
And families, they are the backbone of strength in community.
Yeah.
Right? We're not going to have families. We're not going to have community. We're not going to have children. Children will not be born. Right?
Everything they do to us.
You see that happening now.
Yeah.
And who's having more children than everybody? We were talked about this months ago on the podcast, that Muslims are outpacing everyone.
Yeah. The only thing that I can say, though, is that there are a lot of Muslims, especially younger Muslims, leaving Islam in the West because it doesn't make sense, because a lot of Islam is being exposed.
Yeah.
Right. In terms of like the stuff I'm talking about right here, that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about exposed for the lies or the contradictions.
Yeah, you were saying that there's a lot of people that were getting caught in scandals recently.
Yeah, and these are the dawah guys. Dawah is like kind of like evangelist type.
The apologists or whatever.
Or that's probably a better word. Apologist. But they lie. Like they'll say whatever to keep people in it or to get people to join Islam. And they don't care. They'll make stuff up. They'll twist it. They're looking for argument, just like you said, Jamie. Or we were talking about like how we'll always look for ways. Our nature is to always look for ways to twist things.
Yeah.
Well, that's literally in Islam, like as law.
Wow.
That that Allah is the best of deceivers, right? That's one of the things they call him. He's the best of deceivers.
Doesn't that sound like somebody else that is spoken of in our scriptures?
Yeah.
I mean, they're literally saying it.
Yeah.
All right, we got one more clip here.
Yeah, this one's kind of going to wrap it all up into what we were talking about.
Okay.
Marxists and the Islamists are working together to bring down America.
And this is something I think a lot of people started to realize is a problem. But a lot of people still don't understand how Islamism invaded the West through the doors of cultural Marxism.
That's right.
That is how.
That's right.
And what were the programs they have? Multiculturalism is one of them.
Yes, multiculturalism, which is not the study of multiple cultures.
No.
It's a denigration of the foundational Western worldview of America.
Every culture is good except American culture.
Exactly.
That's really...
Every religion is wonderful except for anything...
Christianity.
Yeah.
And that's really... it's the Marxism paved the way for Islamism. Yes,
so the Marxists and the Islamists are...
Yeah. Yo, why was that...
Kamala is so stupid.
Was that her? Was that her, man? That sounded like her. Like she kind of gave me that vibe a little bit. But yeah. Oh, you didn't hear the sound effect?
No.
It was the lady. Kamala, you are so stupid. That lady. Yeah, but it's crazy that how we're allowing this. Well, I feel like there's a pushback against it now in the States, but in Europe, it's almost like lost. Like it's almost fallen at this point. Especially London. I know Germany. Like they were saying, the Netherlands, France is another place too, and Sweden. Apparently, Sweden.
Yeah.
So
We gotta pray for Europe.
yeah.
And when you think about like the whole multiculturalism thing, like
Yeah.
I think what we do in Western civilization, and I keep saying the flesh because what I'm doing is I'm talking about the inversion. When I say flesh, I mean the inversion of how God created us because of our fallen nature, right?
Right.
Well, we think of things backwards, right? So familiarity without reverence will destroy you. If we become too familiar and we don't have reverence, which is connected to honor, right? Like we get familiar with people and then we think we know them, and oh, that's just Jamie.
Yeah.
No, that's just, I know him. He's like, we get too familiar, and that's what it is with this. Americans, we're idiots. We're, like we get too familiar, but everything else, oh, that's new and different. I don't know anything about that, right? I'm not familiar with that. So now I honor it and I reverence it.
Yeah.
That's what this Marxism is. This cultural, what do they call it? Marxist culturalism.
Yeah.
No, they said something like Marxist culturalism or something like that. Cultural Marxism.
Yeah, cultural Marxism, right.
There you go, cultural Marxism. But I think that's at the core of it, because and that's why it's connected to our flesh, because when we think that we know people, like children disrespecting their parents because they're too familiar, but the parents allow them to be too familiar.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like there's no reverence there, right? There's no reverence. That causes people to be disrespectful, and we feel like even the mocking, the playing, the joking, we feel like I have a right. Oh, that's my brother. I have a right to talk to him the way I do.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
this is at the core of a lot of the issues we have in America. Now, you look at Islam, especially Islam, Western is a little different, but especially Islam in like the Middle East, a lot of areas in the Middle East, you can't even question these things.
Yeah.
Like you can't even question, well, hey, this doesn't make sense to me. You know that they say if you question it, you're a disbeliever, and therefore you're an enemy of Islam.
Wow.
Right? So that's see how the extreme, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how they get people to be fearful, right? But God wants us to reverence him, wants us to become familiar with him in reverence. And that's a healthy fear, where we fear God in a way knowing, yeah, I'm going through this, I'm going through that, but I know that my God can handle it. I know that my God can deal with it. This person's annoying me. This person is like this, like that. But I don't stop there in how I view them. And even we're talking about Islam, but I'm not talking about Muslims, right? I'm not talking about, I love Muslims. I have Muslims that are my friends at this very moment. Like,
yeah.
So I'm not talking about Muslims. I'm talking about the ideology of Islam.
Yeah.
Right? That's where the problem is. But with God, we learn to, when we're struggling, because how do you separate the ideology from the person? You hear what I'm saying? In terms of anything that's going on, That's where the war is, and that's where we need the Lord. And how can I see somebody for who God says they are and who God created them to be, and not for who I see them as every day that's annoying me? You know what I'm saying? So I can look past that. We need God for that. If we become too familiar with people, we're going to become too familiar with God.
Right.
Then we become jaded, and we become, we think we know things. We judge further than we should. We step too far, and that's how things get destroyed.
Yeah, man.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, man. We covered a lot of stuff tonight. We're at 2 hours and 40 minutes. Let's wrap it up there. Appreciate everybody for hanging in there with us, watching us. Thank you for all the comments. Shout out to Jordan, who was in there in the chat, man. We'll see you tomorrow night at rehearsal. Guys, don't forget, go to the Patreon if you want to support these type of conversations, the stuff that we cover here, stuff that we talk about, stuff that we take the time to research and make sure we have the content for you so we can discuss these topics. Make sure you go to our Patreon, patreon.com/youngliontv. Link is also in the description. Also, don't forget our merch and everything is on our website. Link is in the description as well, where you can get all of the t-shirts, hats, and hoodies and all that stuff. And Cash App is in the description as well if you want to just donate to the cause. But other than that, we appreciate everybody. Thank you very much, Mom. Thank you for doing your thing over there. We'll see you guys next week. Peace.
Young lion, go live, yeah. Young lion, you rich, yeah. This kingdom has room, yeah. Go and fight people in.